Looks like we're live. Damn, Cave Daddy, you's early, brother. I guess this thing when I set it up because I set it up early. I'll go into it in a minute. What all happened, but I got myself a video card for Christmas, and I was going to put it in this computer that I'm using, and so I unplugged everything and from the computer and got it all taken apart. And I was going to add this video card to it, and then I realized that the power supply I had wasn't nowhere but near, so that wasn't going to work. Uh, so I ended up putting everything back together and putting it all together and getting it back on there. What's going on, Curtis? So when I did, I guess I didn't get my webcam plugged in the right way or the right spot or something, and I didn't know it, but I hadn't had a microphone or nothing for I guess for a couple of days. So I was wondering why when I was playing the game nobody was responding to me. I just figured it was uh, everybody just didn't want to chat because it's a game that you're playing. You can play with people or you can play against them. So it's PvP or PvE. So you can kind of work together or against each other. So it's pretty cool in that regard. But let me get these links shared and we'll get started. Thank goodness I got everything working. I jumped on there with Mark and Lisa to test everything before this show and I'll start out with that also to talk about something I got in the mail. So we'll get into that here in just a second. But let me get these links shared and Clint had to reset his modem. He was having some network issues as well, so he's resetting his router. 'Tis the season, I guess. And I guess Mark, when I was logging on, he was having some issues. So hopefully we get through the night without a hitch. But we started with one with this damn camera being down and my microphone not working. It's like, shit, we can do without the camera, but we can't do without the microphone, man. You got to be able to hear what I say. Don't have to see me. We can do a podcast just, on audio and answer questions only. You don't have to see my ugly mug, but couldn't believe it. So hopefully we got everything working. And we'll do a mic check and all that good jazz in here in a minute. I guess I don't see their podcast still going. So I'm assuming they're done. I'm scrolling down. Yeah, I don't see live. All right. A few more. I'm trying to get as many as I can in before it tells me I can't do anymore. Then I'll wait and send some to some other groups a little bit later. So just bear with me. Let me get all these out there. And hopefully I'll get them all shared. I'd like to be able to just do it all at once. Just go through and check a bunch of groups off that I want to share to and just hit share and boom, it just shares. But I have to go to each group individually every time. And it gets to be a pain, especially when it won't let you do them all. So hopefully Clint's back and saying howdy. If not, you can talk amongst yourselves while I do this chore. I know it is a chore. Copy and pasting. Hopefully it'll let me get all these in there. I know it won't. Usually it stops about right here, the next one. And just as if it had AI and it's right here, it stopped. Sure as shit. All right, I'll post him a little bit later. Let me close some of this other stuff, so I'm gonna have to look at that. All right, I think it's got it. Oh, heck. I forgot something. Hold on just a minute. Let's see if I can. All right, I had to mute that so I could holler at Anne Marie. Well, all right, let me go through here and say howdy to everybody. What's going on, Cave Daddy? He got here early. So, as I was saying, when I started out the podcast, I was just testing to see if I could, if the mic was working and everything. And I guess when you do that, it sends out a message on Facebook or on YouTube that it's going live before you go live. So they know, that's cool. So they're actually getting that before it actually goes live. So what's going on, Curtis? Here's Mr. Shadow. What's up, brother? What's going on, Toby? Peace out, brother. How you doing? Howdy, Scott. Good to have you with us on time. Yeah, it's good to see you, man. Awesome, awesome. Peppermint schnapps. We like that. What's going on, Phil? Good seeing you, my brother. Merry Christmas to you, Phil. How y'all doing out there on the West Coast? It's a little chilly here, but it's warmed up a little bit. It's not as bad as it has been. I hear y'all getting a lot of rain out there, so a little flooding out there. What's going on, carp? I don't have to call you carpenter. I don't like carp's a bad fish. I ain't gonna give you that nickname, carp. No, that's a negative connotation almost. Uh-oh. You run the bearings off that truck, huh? All right, brother. Thank you, man. Appreciate you. I hate that you got to put new bearings on. I know that's a pain in the ass on the rig, man. It's not so bad on a little car, but yeah, you got them 18 wheelers. He'll just change the tires a pain. What's going on, JJ? There he is. I guess I don't need that. My microphone ain't on there, but I forgot I was going to do this episode with this on. Since this is a Christmas episode, so we're not going to be here on Tuesday, so I guess we'll do this one with this until my head gets so damn hot it's sweaty. It's a hot ass little hat, so I'll be wearing it. Thank you, baby. Here, man, little elf, you want to get in and say hi? Merry Christmas. This is Miss Santa. For those that don't know, Anne Marie, my Miss Santa Claus. Howdy, howdy. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you, baby.
Bye.
All right, bring me a drink when you come back. Clint's made it back. Merry Christmas. So today when I went out and got the mail, I noticed this little box sitting on my stoop. I'd forgotten that Mark Morgan at Uncle Moonshine has a little I guess on his podcast they have a little trivia game going. And the winner he'll send a little barbecue sauce and some of his special rum. So I did a little review on his podcast. I'm gonna do some here too. The rub, now most rubs I get from the store are like 90% paprika, and you really can't taste much of anything else other than just the paprika, right? It's just like pure freaking paprika in a container. This is really good. It's got some sweetness to it. Garlic, you can taste the onion and the garlic in it. It's got some onion pieces. It's really good, and it's not paprika heavy at all. In fact, it might not even have paprika in it, which is a big plus for me because most of the ones we had It's, paprika ain't an expensive spice, and it's like they just fill you up on a paprika. I looked online. I think it's like $12, $14 maybe. Oh, no, let me go back. It's www. I mean, it should be. Yeah, it's not on there. Should be www.morganmoonshine.com. And of course, that helps if you spell Morgan right. Not me, Oregon. It's Morgan. Get a little double strike there. Now, why won't it go to it? I went to it just a minute ago while I was on the podcast. Now it's not going there. I think he's on here to make sure I got it right. I'll have to get clarification on it, but I think it's www.morganmoonshine.com. And let me see. I'm probably double striked here, and I think it's HTTPS / see if that works. Yep, morganmoonshine.com, and it does help if you spell it properly. But this rub is $15 bucks. That's a 12-ounce jar of good spice, and I don't know if y'all ever priced spices. That's a little hard to say when you're drinking. But for a little over $1 an ounce, that's cheap for a good quality rub that isn't 100% paprika. And yeah, let me give you a visual on that. Let's see, I'm not looking on his actual web page, but yeah, you can tell by looking at it. That's not I don't even think it has paprika in it. So if you want paprika in it, you can take this and mix it with some paprika and increase the size and volume of it. But just for this size, I checked my local grocery store. Yeah, you can't get rub that cheap. So it's a good deal. Definitely a good deal. Now the barbecue sauce, it's got a little heat to it, and it's real sweet. I don't know if Ann can have any. She's diabetic, but definitely great flavor. Got a little bit of heat there, not too much. I'm not one of those. I was saying on the show, I'm not one of those Scoville kings, that wants to brag about how many millions of Scovilles I can eat. This has good follow-up heat and a little bit on your tongue, but it's not it's not a contest to see who can have the most heat without you lose flavor. I mean, who wants to just have something with all the heat? So this has a really good tang and a good amount of heat to it, just about right. I think Ann, if she were to try it, it would be, she doesn't like spicy at all. She can't handle the heat at all. So this would be something that she would like as well, because it's maybe a hot, like I did the Taco Bell equivalents. It's a hot but not quite the fire. And I'm trying to think of the other one, the highest one. It's like, what's that one, that dark sauce? You can't hear me. I usually have a few laying around here because I've only used a few drops of those with the fire or the hot, but they're really hot, and I'm just not into the really hot, knock you down, million Scoville kind of thing. Yeah, I thought y'all was getting a lot of rain out there. I saw that, brother. Yes, sir. We're always asking questions if you got them. If not, I'll sit here and bullshit all night with you. Thank you, brother. Clint says howdy and Merry Christmas. Everybody say Merry Christmas. What's going on, Randy? Good to see you, brother. Yeah, this isn't a really salty. It's got, you can tell it's got a lot of garlic. It definitely has garlic heavy, and I like that about it because garlic's not cheap. In fact, a big thing of this full of garlic is pretty expensive. Paprika's cheap though, and pepper and salt. But it's not. This isn't loaded down with that at all, and it doesn't list each individual spice that it's got. I know the barbecue does. They're not going to give away that. Mark's not going to give away his secret recipe. But well, I back off that. It does have paprika in it. Man, I would have never known from the color. It's just not real red burgundy at all. But it's got the right amount. It's not dominant. Most of them are just dark red. But it's got some salt. It's got some sugar. It's got some honey powder. That's that sweetness. Paprika, garlic, onion, black pepper, and a binder filler. But it's good. Definitely good. I wouldn't have thought that had much paprika in it, but it's got some. But most of the ones I see is like dark red. I mean, it's just like maroon. It's like all paprikas. You've got questions, brother. It just takes me a while now. I will say, and I'll repeat myself, I get behind on these. So if I don't answer you instantly, it's not because I'm just long winded. It's because I haven't gotten down to it yet, right? So I can only see like 5 questions, and it goes as it comes, and I always get behind. So yeah, we're always asking questions on here, brother. That's what we're here for. That's good. Diablo, that's it. There's another Taco Bell man. Yes, the Diablo. Hey, Lisa. Yeah, this is good flavor with just a little bit of heat to it. It's perfect. What's up, here, Billy? Good to see you, brother. That's all right. I got plenty more. I hope it's good taste. What's going on, Mark? Also, in that pack, they got a little of Mark's award-winning peach cobbler. Well, he won a was it Louisiana contest? He won down there. Won a steel. Big moonshine contest down there in Louisiana festival. I think Mark and Digger and everybody down there gave away the steel. Mark winning a big old steel down there with this peach cobbler. It's awful damn good. So shots, get it, get it started. Get this party started. Saturday night. So this is our Christmas edition. We're not going to be here Tuesday. Um, I got to play Santa, so I got to do my deed. And here's the coffee. What what proof's this coffee? It's got to be 100 proof. I'm guessing about 90 to 100. Good and smooth. I'm not a coffee drinker, but I like coffee shine. Explain that. I don't know. I guess maybe it might be an alcohol, but I like coffee shine. I'm not into coffee, but that coffee shine is awesome, man. We Maggie Valley a couple years ago. Well, I pretty much stayed drunk the whole damn weekend. Imagine that. But on Saturday night, went over to Mark's, and I'd been at the festival all day drinking. I was already about 2 sheets to the wind, and Mark hands me his quart of coffee shine. I coddled that thing like a baby. I drank about everything. There was about that much left in the bottom of it. That was the last I saw it, but I think they took it away from me because I was pretty drunk. I was hammered. I was speaking in tongues. Is it? I'm gonna have to grow some. I like garlic. Arkansas. Okay. Is okay. It's a different Arkansas one than the one I went to. I think it's Louisiana for some reason. I don't know. But yeah, it wasn't the Clintonville, Arkansas. It was a different Arkansas. They had 2 different festivals there this year. Down there, Big Chuck Country. 100 proof. Yeah, it tastes about like 90, 100. Good. Very smooth for 100. All right, where you at, Redneck? I'm sorry I was late getting to you, brother, but yeah, if you got questions, that's what we're here for, my friend. Ask away. Just shoot them out there. We'll get them. It might take us a second, especially when chats are only good, but that's what we're here for, brother. We'll answer all the questions that you got. And that's me. I love the smell of coffee, man. I mean, I used to get up and smell that and love the smell of it cooking and brewing. I just didn't like the bitterness, right? And I probably drank about 10 cups of coffee, unless that shine counts, in my life. And that was when I was in school to help keep me awake and alert and study for tests, cram for these finals and stuff. And I probably drank about 10 cups of coffee in my life, and it was heavily sugared with milk, so it wouldn't taste like basically a sweet coffee chocolate. It was real sweet. It didn't taste like coffee at all. I just never liked the bitterness of it. I love the smell of it, and that coffee sounds awesome. Awesome. I didn't get a chance to hunt it all this year, man. I got so much going on. Living in the city, it makes it a little tougher, and I got to get out to the range, and I've got a couple few guns that I bought and ain't had a chance to shoot yet. I've got scopes on them, ready to sight them in. But used to bring back a deer about every time I went. There's very few. I can count them on my hands and fingers, or my hands and toes. How many times I came back without a deer in all the years of hunting? I used to hunt every year, but just getting older, it's going to be a little harder for me to walk the mountains like I used to. I could, and I never was one to sit and wait on them. I was always a track and kill, track and spot, and you know, raise them up off the bed and get a shot on them before they ever get started to run. Oh, that was I was drinking some of Mark's peach cobbler. He at there's a second. It's the other moonshine festival in Arkansas, not the one at Clinton. It was the other one that they had down there at Market Diggers at, and the this is the one that Mark won that steel with the overall competition on the shine. It was with his peach cobbler. It's good. It's real good. He said he improved on that recipe by adding a little bit of vanilla to this one. It's really good. I think it's better than my peach pie that I make. So I'm gonna have to go back to the drawing board maybe. You're welcome, brother. Yeah, I made a peach pie, and it's uses the Tyranny peach, and it's okay, but it's got a strange sweetness to it. So maybe I think I got the sugar free sweet version when I should have just got the sugar and not freaking cared. But I got the low sugar one, and it just has an odd. Maybe it's just that odd sweetener that they use for that, because a lot of people really like the Olive Nation Olive Nation flavoring. Oh, I thought I had my comments large and big and wide, big and tall. Yeah, yeah, we're trying to get them bigger for people that are on their phones, but it helps a lot of people see comments from YouTube, because in chat, if you notice, all the Facebook people can see Facebook comments, and all the YouTube people can see YouTube comments, but they can't see each other's comments like we do when we're on the software. So I've been begging for them to add a little site where we could post the chat on this thing, and they did. And now I'm on to make it bigger. So hopefully we can get that added But yeah, I requested that after every podcast for the last 6 months, and they came through, man. That's awesome. So I was really glad because it helps a lot, especially in this format when you got a lot of you stream multi-streaming to different formats and stuff. So you got you some Hickory King on the way, huh? That's awesome. That's some good stuff. No, it's not. It's especially hard for some people. I don't know what's wrong with them. Yeah, it's yeah, and that's one thing I like about it. Now, if you're on a phone, it's hard to see, and that's really as big as it gets. I mean, let me. Yeah, so no matter what I do with this, it doesn't make. That might be better though. Yeah, I like that a little better. Let's see. Yeah, that's too much. There we go. We're back to where we are. Yeah, and it's because he's on Facebook, and you can't see Facebook posts on there, Scott. You just, I guess, pretty much what you see is your YouTube comments, and the Facebook people see Facebook comments, but on it's they can't see each other. So if you can follow, especially if you're on a PC or a tablet, you can usually read off the screen there, where down in the lower, I guess, lower right hand corner for you all. Um, that's it. That's as tall. Well, I thought it was. Oh yeah, tall. There's tall. Is tall better? Because there's the tall, and then let's see. I can see 4 comments there, and there's the wide. I can only see 3 comments, but I see. They're fairly short comments. I guess when you have a longer comment, it's a little better to have it wide. When you got a comment where there's a lot more wording to it. But if it's small comments, just little short comments, um, you can probably see it better as tall. But I think wide is the best way to go. That way, if somebody has a lot, like that, like Scott just typed, you can see that, and it's not 2 lines, and it didn't. If I do that tall, I don't know. I can still see a lot of comments, but it seems smaller to me that way. All right, good. We'll go tall. We have been going wide, but if that works better for you guys, that's the most important thing. If y'all can see it, that's because I got a big, huge, comments thing. But I'm trying to get them to do wide but tall, right? Or maybe take up 3/4 of this, right side, or even half the screen for that matter. I don't, I wish I could program a little better. I could just increase the size of that digital container that it's in, and but I don't know. I like that. Hey, how's it going? So hope everybody's having a good Saturday. Oh, that redneck RB, man. I hope he ain't mad at me. I'm sorry. I do get behind, and if all people should know, I get behind on here. So if I don't notice your comment directly, it's because I'm behind. Well, tonight we were going to talk about some winemaking. I promised that I was going to do a little bit of research on it, and in the afternoon panic of not being able to, damn, my back shut down, of not having a microphone work, I spent my afternoon putting things together, making sure everything worked okay. I'm just looking at So I did a little bit of a search, and I'm going to try to find some. But what we're going to have to do is some of the things we talk about tonight, I'm going to post in the DIY China stuff files. I know sometimes they don't like a lot of different recipes that list other group names in it in the militia page, because they don't want to deal with copyright issues and stuff like that either, But so what we're going to do, probably post some of these on the DIY page. But yeah, we've got quite a few little recipes we can go through. So if there's certain types of fruit that you all like to make a wine from, let me know, and we could try to address some of those. So that was going to be the 65-inch, man. Damn, maybe 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 this is better if I wait a minute. What happened to? Whoa. Wait a minute. This is crazy. All right, now we're better. Damn, that was wild. I was just going to change the size. I was going to say maybe that is better on that 65, man. I probably look a little better on that there. Apples or pears? Yeah, that'd be good, Brandy. I've got some apples going now. I was going to do a little apple rye, but the apples start out pretty slow, and it wasn't working real well. So I kind of decided just I had to add a little bit more yeast to it. I think the yeast I was using had a little uh, is declined. It's getting a little old, and I guess that's the longest I've had it. But oh yeah, I had that birthday meet. Happy birthday! I remember that now. Happy birthday, JJ. When was your birthday? 18th. Did it look like that, Richard? That's some good stuff, brother. I've got to try it as soon as I get some time to do some grains. I've been doing brandies, and this apple's gonna be the last brandy I do for a while. So I want, I hate in the winter, but I can still ferment and run some corn in the winter. I'd rather ferment it in the summer, but I'd rather do the wines and the brandies in the winter when you get slower ferments. Uh, but we're doing it backwards as always. Everything's got to be tough way, hard way. Yeah, we do what we can. He's been on here often enough. He knows I'm getting behind, and we're always here to ask questions. Always here for that. Yeah, I used to be the same way, Hillbilly. Everything I did was all grain as corn liquor, pretty much all corn liquor. Usually little oats and wheats to go with it, but pretty much that was it. Actually, for the first 20, 25 years at least, I just did thin mash, basically sugar, cornmeal, and yeast, and let her roll, and made some harsh ash. That's the way it was done back in the days. It was pretty much the way most people did it. That we didn't have all the amylase, and we couldn't get malted barley and all these. Some people now went to the trouble of malting their own corn and converted and did that. And of course, made some of the best shine. But that was just too long, arduous. Hell, it's all I wanted was just to get some alcohol. But as I got older and learned more about it, of course, started learning more about conversions and stuff, and doing the conversions and doing all starch, conversion. Got much better, and did that for quite a few years, probably 10 years, and then in the last 10 years, I've probably been doing a lot of wines and brandies. It's not, I've been doing some grain, but mostly brandies and stuff. Been focused on brandies and wines because that was something new to me, and I'm always into doing new things, so that was something new to the hobby for me. And yeah, I know how to make a good mountain brandy. Well, it does. It's a smoother. If you can get your yeast and make the simple sugars from starches as opposed to a table sugar, it makes a softer, smoother liquor than just a sugar. Or maybe it's not that you're doing the grain wrong. Maybe it's that you're doing real well with the sugars. And but generally a high sugar content or a high sugar base spirit has more bite, more astringent, more alcohol tasting than like a corn liquor. Corn liquor usually has, or a grain liquor, will have more grain flavor and generally a smoother taste to it, right? And less astringent and less like vodka, more like a grain, a sweet corn, and that type flavor. So if you can convert and get a good conversion and get a decent proof, starting gravity, you can make some really good smooth corn liquor. It's really good. Yeah, I like making some rums. And that banana rum worked out really well, and some of the rums work out real well. I'm into the rums too. What's going on, Mike? Yeah, man. Let's see. Let me put my old dirty glasses on. Yeah, there we go. Got to flip it in. I guess the camera's down low. We're kind of coming up at an angle. I guess I have to do like that to get the full effect. But yeah, maybe this year old Santa can bring me a damn microphone that I can have a pod and a better camera that'll be up here, kind of instead of up, from low. It's just sitting on my desk in front of me, kind of low and looking up. But just be glad I got this beard. You don't have to see a big old double chin. I got a little bit of a double chin, not much, but a little bit of a double chin. This hides it real well. I like it. Thank you, brother. Yeah, so starting out with all grain, yeah, you convert the polysaccharides into a monosaccharide basically. So table sugar is a disaccharide. It's a glucose bonded to a fructose that makes a sucrose. And your yeast can eat disaccharides, but they like the monosaccharide. They love those single sugars. As simple as it can get, the better. So they really, really love the monosaccharides, and that's one of the reasons that your grain fermentations are so quick. 3 or 4 days, boom, they're done, and it's because that yeast can just gobble the shit out of that monosaccharides, where it takes them a little longer to nibble around a disaccharide, right? And fructose, they're a little slower eating the fructose than just a pure monosaccharide glucose, right? So they really prefer. That's why dextrose. When I do sweeten something, if I do need to boost up the sweetness a little bit, that dextrose is really good because it's a monosaccharide, just a single glucose, and you can tell a difference between a sucrose and the dextrose and table sugar. If you want to do an experiment, carp uh, carpenter, you can try doing just dextrose, do a sugar wash with dextrose, and then do one with table sugar, and you'll see a little difference in the smoothness and the speed. But definitely put your oyster shells in there because those both go really quick and vigorous, and it's almost so quick and hard it's stresses the yeast, right? It's like pumping them full of steroids. They just kind of going crazy, but they love that dextrose. So when I do my grains, um, but pear's got a good delicate flavor. Yeah, I do a banana rum. It works out real well. Okay, if you next time, if you instead of adding regular sugar, just add some that dark brown sugar, it'll make some interesting, banana rum. Adds a little dark grunge flavor to the rum, and if you like a darker rum with a grunge flavor, I like it real well, and I use that as the base for my root beer shine too, and it's really good. Combined the two together work really well together. It makes it really special. Yeah, Ann loves her some banana pudding. That's one of her favorite desserts. I will. I will. I definitely will. Basically, it's simple. You just start out with a buttload of bananas and enough water to make it, you know, liquefy, and then start adding brown sugar, that dark brown sugar, until your gravity's where you want it, and that's it. But man, that stuff makes a huge cap. I've got it written down in there. I will write it down. Clint, remind me, and I'll share that with the group. I don't keep. Now I'm not gonna give you my root beer recipe, but I'll give you my banana rum, or my grappa recipe. I don't know. But yeah, it's real good. It's a real good base. It made a real good rum. It's not real banana-y flavored. It doesn't have a lot of banana flavor. I think that brown sugar really kind of came through, but it's got a dark grungy. It's an interesting flavor. It's not bad. Some people might not like it. I loved it, but it just started out and finished the same way. It wasn't interesting or didn't have many characteristics. It was just pretty much the same taste beginning to end. And for that reason, it just wasn't a complex, thing. And it didn't have that banana up front with a dark at the end. I would have liked that. So I was thinking of what I could do with it, and it was about the time when Nick Calo came out with that banana, or I'm sorry, his peanut butter shine, and I was thinking, well, I could. That'd be pretty good with this banana. That grunge would go well with the peanut butter, right? So everybody said use the powdered. So I was going to get some powdered stuff, and somebody said be careful with that. It gets really bitter quick. And I was like, well, I don't want to ruin a decent rum. And then about that same time, Mark Morgan, Uncle Moonshine, had he started experimenting with some root beer, and I tried his. I'm like, that would be really good with that banana rum. So I reran it and infused with some secretness, and posted with some secretness, and it's awesome. It's really good. It's 100 proof, so it's really good. Yeah, it's getting more expensive. Yeah, that blue agave is expensive. There are some places that has some decent deals on it, like Webster and what's that other one? Restaurant Depot. And I think Philbilly could get some pretty good deals on it too. I'm not sure where he gets his, but yeah, it's it's expensive. That's why I've never made tequila. It's kind of cost prohibitive for me. But I guess if you know somebody, who was it I saw? Had somebody, I guess, down in Mexico that mailed or shipped them up a big, huge bucket full of blue agave. I can't remember who it was. Might have been Amanda. I'm not sure. I can't remember who it was. Might have been Amanda. But shipped them up a big 5-gallon pail of agave from down there in Mexico, and they made a run with it. I tell you, Jeff makes some pretty good. He pops on here from time to time. He makes some. Jeff Singleton makes some good. Really, some of the best tequila I've ever drank. His aged the barrel aged tequila. It's probably some. I used to drink a lot of tequila when I was younger too, and it's probably the best tequila I've ever tasted. He really makes us. That's just, I mean, the Bloody Butcher Sour Mash he sends me up and takes care of me on that. It's good. It's really good. It's a great drink. But that aged tequila, he's got that gold tequila. Man, I'm telling you, it's the best tequila without a doubt. And I used to drink some top shelf tequilas too in my day. Yeah, that or just buy it down there and bring it back. I don't think there'd be any restrictions bringing it in the country. I don't know. You might have to pay a tax or some kind of shit on it, importation tax or something. But are you, man? I'm jealous as hell, man. That's awesome, brother. I'd like to get a tote. I mean, I'd like to just get a tote of that shit. It's just get crazy, man. That's so good. And if I can get Jeff's get his recipe, man, because that stuff is just, man, it's really really good. It's like I say, I just don't say it about anything. It has to be. I'm not gonna blow smoke up anybody's ass. It has to be what it is. I mean, it's some of the best ever, hands down by far. If he could come up with that every time, he could definitely win some contests with it. Ain't no doubt about that. But yeah, I'd love to have me a big tote full of it. That'd be awesome. So what got some people out there probably listening. We talking about we're gonna do some wine. So what wine do y'all like to drink? I've heard some people. Yeah, blue yeast for sure. Absolutely, hillbilly. And it helps to do it during the warm season. It's not something that you want to do in the winter. It actually prefers warm temperatures when you do your fermentation. So it's definitely a summer run unless you live in a warm climate. It's definitely something you want to do in the summer. And when a lot of other things are stalling and getting too hot, that's when it's time to start making some tequila, right? So, yep. Yeah, agave is expensive stuff, man. It is definitely. It's always been cost prohibitive for me. I enjoy doing a lot of things, and sometimes rums. Sometimes rums. Yeah, definitely with blackberry, blueberry, and rhubarb. Yeah, those are definitely some good wines. I've got blackberry in there right now. I've got to run. I've got the apple that I've got to run. So I got to get all that done. What's going up, dog? Doing good, brother. How about you, man? Doing good. Oh yeah. Now if you're doing like a grain, you do your conversion and you're getting 1060, 1070, and you want to bump it up to 108, or you're getting 1060 and you want to go 70, you're really not adding a lot of sugar to it. So in that circumstance, yeah, you're not going to see a lot. And that's when I use that dextrose because you just see none. You're not going to see a lot of difference at all. But when I'm talking about, an all grain shine versus just a sugar shine, you'll definitely, see some differences in your notes. But I wasn't following what your question. Yeah, you're not gonna, you know, that versus not, you're not gonna see a lot of difference. Right. Yeah, I don't know, man. I used to be that way, JJ, but once you get old and fat, man, it just gets bad again. Great. Yeah, for me, what brandy or wine I make is generally dictated by what's on sale and what's in season. So I'm a seasonal fruit brandy guy. So you know during certain times, pineapple makes a good shine, and bananas when you get those on sale makes a good shine. Blackberries, we've got a place where we go. We can pick them for free, and we have to give them half, right? So you go and you pick all day if you want to, but you just give them half of what you pick. And that way they don't pay have employees there that they have to pay to pick. They got people picking for free, out there, and they just double up on their bushes, and they get, they make good wine there too. It's a winery, and so we go there, and I'll go there in the afternoons and in late spring and pick blackberries, early summer, pick blackberries, and spend a nice day out in the sun and fresh air, and they got some nice thornless bushes, so it's a little easier to pick. And they just, they fill up a bucket, and they'll take half a bucket, and you get the other half. You fill up 2 buckets, they'll take one, you keep the other one. What's going on, Dan? Good to see you, brother. Yeah, Toby makes a good persimmon shine. Toby makes good liquor. Toby makes real good corn liquor and some honey liquor this year. Can't believe he's got to replace his bearings, though. That's going to be tough. Now was it a skirt or a kilt? Man, tell the truth, Judge. You wore a plaid skirt. Now, I like those little work kilts, man. Some of those work kilts with the tool belt kind of built into them. Those pretty cool. But yeah, I don't think you want to see me up on a ladder. It's not going to be a pretty sight. Oh, that's funny. Yeah, it's fine to, if you don't get a great conversion and you want to bump it up a little bit, absolutely nothing wrong with that, Carpenter. I wasn't following what you were saying. I was thinking you were talking about comparing like a sugar wash versus a grain with a little bit of sugar, and you couldn't tell the difference. I'm sorry. I totally misread what you were trying to say. But yeah, you'll be able to tell quite a bit difference between like just a pure sugar wash versus a grain with conversion, even if you had to add a little bit of sugar to it. Yeah, the grapes are different. It's not the same as a table grape at all. Table grapes are generally sweeter than a wine grape, and they're usually a lot larger and full. And that's the way you want it. When you go table grapes, you want big, huge, sweet, tasty, luscious, juicy, lots of water grapes. Strangely enough, winemakers want a small. They don't want huge, bundles of grapes. They cut it back if they're producing too heavily. They'll cut it back and just throw the grapes on the ground or give them away. And in the soil, they don't want the soil to be ultimately rich and produce high. They technically, it's the opposite of making wine. Is they want to stress that plant, because the stress from the plant increases the character of the actual grape itself, and increases the complexity of the grape and the flavor that it will add to a wine. So a wine grape and a wine grape and a table grape, not going to be the same at all. Now, the grapes that I've always used for my wines have been table grapes, right? So I've never, really done a fine wine with a wine grape. I would love to try that, but my grappa that's so daggone good. It was made with Welch's big ass Welch's table grapes, man. They're some of the biggest grapes I'd ever seen. They were huge. They were massive. On sale for 99 cents a pound. So that's my trigger. When it hits that when I get grapes at $99.19, that's when I'll buy 40 pounds and do something. But I'm just not, that's $40, 40, 45, $50 for a good run. I'll do that. But if they're $2.99 or $2.69 and it's going to cost me twice that or more than double, no, it's not happening. I'll do my pineapples or whatever else is on sale, except watermelon. I'm not full with that much anymore. But I learned my lesson on those. Yeah, the grapes are really definitely different. They're tart. They have a lot of flavor, but it's not like what you're used to eat with a table grape. The sweet, juicy, got flavor. these are different. They're not the same. Oh, you don't. Okay, seriously. Oh, oh, I'm getting mixed messages here, JJ. Yeah, yeah. The soil that they grow it in. Um, I did some research on it. The white soil that usually I don't know if it's what the content is. I guess it's a clay, um, a whiter clay that doesn't have a lot of alluvial. Not a lot of sand and richness from being in a river or a basin at one time. They don't want a lot of nutrients. They add what they need, and they like for it to be nutrient deficient and soil that most other things don't grow well in. And just just wine grapes. Now, all these wine companies, they've selectively bred and worked on these grapes, and I don't know the varieties. Concord, I think, makes great jelly, and probably makes some good, table grape types. But as far as wine grapes, it's they're little tiny grapes, man. They're real small. They're not like big, huge grapes that we're used to seeing, the big table grapes, right? So, but I'm not going to sit here and try to act like I'm a big grape connoisseur because I don't know a lot about the different grapes. But just from my research on the grapes, it's there's a big difference in a table grape, what they consider a table or a juice grape, versus a wine grape. They do pretty well on fence, in fence areas, that are in partial shade. You have to get some light to them, but I've seen them a lot of fence rows and stuff out in the country, and along trees along the fence lines, and they'll grow right in there with it. Uh, my dad grew up in an area called Grapevine, Kentucky, and there's a lot of muscadines in that, and a lot of wild grapes and stuff there, and that's how it got its name. And man, those things are everywhere. But yeah, they do better in the sun. Yeah, I guess if it's sandy and it doesn't have a lot of nutrients, I guess that works well too. But I guess each area gets characteristics from, I guess, the soil substrate that they're grown in. So um, that gives each regional wine a different characteristic and flavor. Like your Napa Valley wines. Let me do just a little bit of research on the Napa Valley uh, soil. Yeah, I would. It's very diverse. Very, the valley floor is alluvial silt, which is probably not the best, to rocky, and the hillsides are more clay loams and volcanic, which probably a little chart. Uh oh, we got a chart. But yeah, let's see. Yeah, and like the loam, it says if it's too fertile, overproduction vines result in thinner wines and not a real good. The silk is in the middle, aromatic from the light colored uh, wines, and rich structured vines in the clay. So it shows how each different soil gives you different characteristics in the flavor, like I was talking about. That's interesting. It's the new chart for me to use here. Let me try this chart. Open images. Well, shit. Open image, this little tiny ass thumbnail. Oh, I can get it bigger right there. Well, let's see if I can find that chart here. That's pretty good. Okay, so this is saying basically this is a 10 most common soil types for growing wine grapes. It's a great little article by Nicole McKay, and it has the chart here, and it shows clay is probably the best quality, and I'm guessing it's probably the lighter colored clay, like I was talking about. It's not the real red clays like what we get here. It's different, but it works real well for them. And the clay is probably the best one. Silt Loess, Loess. It retains water and heat and has high fertility, which is good for some. Oh, so they're saying which type. So sand is well draining and phylloxera free. I don't know what that word means, but we're going to Google it. Okay, phylloxera or grape phylloxera is a devastating vineyard disease caused by the tiny insect. I don't even going to try to pronounce that. These minuscule yet menacing agents of destruction are aphids, basically, and belong in the family, aphid family. Uh, they're really small, and I guess certain types of soil and moisture levels are a little more conductive in how well they adapt. So this is something I've not read about or been exposed to before. I'm not able to see your comments right now, so Clint's going to take care of your comments while I read a little bit of that. Started in Europe and spread in France and then to Italy, Spain, and Germany. A lot of vineyards were devastated by it. So that's kind of put a big damper on it. But they did selectively breed it to find rootstocks that were resistant to it, and that's how they've come up with something that shows a little picture of them. Phylloxera, I guess, is Phylloxera, phylloxera, and it's still a threat, but it's been taken care of by selective breeding. Cool, something new. I've not heard of that before. But I guess certain like sand is a little tougher because it's so well draining that they don't get a foothold. So showing all the different substrates and their benefits, and but it seems like most of it they like a lot of drainage, which doesn't make sense with clay. I guess clay doesn't get a lot of penetration, so it pretty much just washes off. It doesn't retain any water, so it just drains away. So I guess that's the benefit of that. But I think silty clay, and sandy clay with a little clay loam tends to be a little better than others, but pretty interesting. Yeah, I have to have me a little more coffee. Yeah, it is kind of a whitish clay, yeah, color. I guess that's like a bent knot. Isn't that what that is? Key litter. Oh, it is after 9. Well, maybe it'll let me share the rest of these links. Let's see here. Let me pull up the right link. There we go. Yeah, better late than never. Put it on my buddy Brian's page. Brother Brian. And he's on this page. This is a different page, but he's on Ozark Post. How cool is that? All right. There's Mr. Brian. I knew he's lurking down there, brother. How's it going? I saw that post that you wearing that the proof is out there t-shirt. Wayne posted of you. Yeah, I'm getting about halfway there, man, already. Yeah, 100 proof coffee shop's pretty good. I guess with that caffeine in it, man, it's like I don't know if y'all remember just a few years back, they started coming out with these highly caffeinated high alcohol content drinks, and they found that a lot of people are getting alcohol poisoning from it. Well, I guess they were able to, and I guess I was probably that way at Maggie a couple of years ago when I was at Mark's drinking it, because I probably drank 2 quarts that day almost. I was drunk as fuck. I was out there, but I guess it gives you the the up the energy from the coffee and the caffeine, and at the same time you're getting the alcohol and the caffeine mix. So I think they made some rules about caffeine and alcohol. Let me see when that was. I'm thinking like early 2000s maybe. Yeah, let's see. It was 2010. That was a little later than I thought. So yeah, they made a ban on caffeinated alcoholic drinks. So the FDA introduced a ban because of so many college kids and so many people drinking these heavily caffeinated high proof drinks, and they were getting alcohol poisoning. And so they in November 2010 they banned it. And I'm sure there's a certain point, so it's not like you can't have a little caffeine in the alcohol. So there is, well, I say that now. I'm saying there is no single limit for caffeine in all drinks, but the FDA considers up to 400 milligrams per day safe for healthy adults. And I guess, if you drink too much, I guess you can get too much of it. Wow. So yeah, they banned it. Because I do remember there was a lot of college kids, and they were drinking the hell out of these caffeinated drinks. Yeah, I agree. What are rules, man? We don't need no stinking rules. We make the rules. No jar. So, do you have cypress there as well? Oh yeah, yeah, that's what you're saying. There's cypress. So there's some cypress here in Kentucky. It's very rare. It's out in western Kentucky, and it's the only only place in Kentucky that has it. But there's few remaining cypress from they're pretty ancient. Uh, but that's the only place that you can that there are in Kentucky, and it's out very western Kentucky. Yeah, they'll still sell booze and coffee. Yeah, and I mean you can drink. You know, what's that? Kahlua and cream and all that. I'm sure it's got some caffeine in it, but yeah, it's but these drinks, I guess it was just convenience and they wanted to regulate it because people were dying, so they felt they had to do something other than tell people that you probably shouldn't be doing that. You probably should not drink till you die. They didn't quit selling alcohol, and that was the root cause of it, right? So it's not like thousands of people that died doing the same thing with a little blow back in the days. Snorting coke and drinking alcohol until they just die. I guess they made that was already illegal though, right? But yeah, it's yeah, it was a problem though for a lot of college students. They were party till you drop, and I guess if you're drinking a lot of caffeine, you don't drop. You just keep on partying until you really overconsume and just toxify yourself to the point where you give yourself alcohol poisoning. And I probably been close to that a few times myself. I was when I was younger, I didn't have a drinking problem unless I ran out of alcohol. That was the only problem, right? And I would drink a lot, more than I should. Now that I'm getting older, it's hard to drink like that. I tried Maggie Valley a couple of times, and those 3 day hangovers are enough for me. I can't do it. Can't do that anymore. Can't hang with the youngins like I used to. Trying to hang with Wes, man, it gets you. Wes can put him away, man. He can sit there and he can drink with the best of them, man. He would have been. He's been hanging with me when I was young because I can sit and drink and put people under the table. I outdrink a lot of people. Zambuki and Red Bull. Yeah, Red Bull. Yeah, the energy drink, vodka. That's basically what these cans were. Is a highly caffeinated alcohol, and you know, so they made those illegal. I don't know. It's like you can't just go out and get some coffee and vodka and do the same damn thing. And I guess in a can it was just too convenient. Zambuki. That sounds like was it kind of a tea? Probably with a heavily tea based, like a bamboo zam. Shit, kombucha. I was talking to uh, a friend of mine who makes a shine out of bamboo. Some of you may know him, and we were talking about making a kombucha tea fermented and combine it with that bamboo shine and make a bambushka. And yeah, that would be pretty good stuff. A lot of people like that kombucha. Yeah, I had quite a bit there at the Dan Cave. I sure did. Yeah, we sat and put quite a bit away over at Dad's. Yes, I did. I got pretty hammered. And that was after a day of drinking at the farm to bottle. Another good, definitely a great festival. It's one of my favorites, if not my favorite festival. I love it. Great place up there, great people. Camp at the same place the festival is, all there together. Man, it's just perfect. It's the Woodstock of moonshine, man. I love it. Just camp right there and not have to leave, do anything, come in, drop your keys and forget about it. You know, they got food, they got drink, everything's there. It's a great time, man. It's the Woodstock of moonshine. I like that, man. We're going to have to use that, right, Dan? The Woodstock of moonshine. Camp and drink and love. And I don't know, maybe they'll be a little more lenient towards cannabis there now that it's legal and recreational. So maybe they'll start allowing it in campsites that are, since that's supposed to be like your house and your yard. That's they're renting you a place to put your house and your yard. So yeah, Alfredo, yeah, 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 Alfredo's bamboo. Yeah, I didn't know if anybody knew. Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people know who Alfredo is. And Wendy, awesome people. Yeah, we had to make some T-shirts like Woodstock. 40 years after. Because it's music and camping and drinking and smoking and good times, man. It's awesome. Definitely good times. I guess it's more than 40 years after. I said 40 years. It's probably been like 55, 60 years. Huh? Yeah, you do. You damn sure do. Well, now, Richard, I think Schedule 3, what the schedule is based on a Schedule 1 drug it means it has no therapeutic use. Uh, it's just a drug. There's absolutely no therapeutic, no medicinal purpose whatsoever. And having it reclassified as a one or right to three from one means it has absolutely like LSD, is classified there. Meth, there's quite a few that are classified as one that have no therapy, what they rate as no therapeutic value. But by reclassifying it as three means that there is a medicinal value. It's recognized by the FDA as having a medicinal value. That just means that it opens it up a lot more for research. In the past, there were a lot of, and I know of one in specific. I think the gal was out of Arizona, and she was specializing in helping veterans with PTSD, and she was trying to isolate different chemicals in indica and sativa and ruderalis and different types of combinations of marijuanas to find out what specific types and genotypes would work best with anxiety and PTSD and those kind of things. And what happened was we get different administrations in. We got an administration in, they got really hard on it. They were like, we're going to cut your federal funds if you don't stop this research, right? They were, in that big pharma, you know, putting their elbows and flexing on them. And that's what happens. And so they shut this very valuable, needed research done. They shut this lady down, and threatened, I think it was University of Phoenix I think it might have been, but that was where she was. This has been years ago. So they shut her down, and the federal government ruled it that way because it was the schedule that it was, and there was no, if ands or buts. There couldn't be any. They weren't willing to bend the rules for it, and so and instead of reclassifying it like they should have ages ago, had lots of promises from lots of presidents and lots of congresses, and they never got anything done. And it should have. There's definitely, we know hands down that there is definitely therapeutic and medicinal values in marijuana. It's just big pharma they can't put a patent on it because of it being a plant like that. So um, um, it's there's been a lot. They were kind of that way here in Kentucky. We had an attorney general. I'm not gonna mention any name to try to step on anybody's toes or anything, but we had a family here that had a child that had seizures 24/7. She had multiple, just pretty much every 15 minutes of her life was dealing from seizure to seizure to seizure. Right? She just pretty much had to live her life in a bed. She was, dilapidated from not getting exercise and sunlight. She's bedridden pretty much most of her life, and they were giving her all these different medicines and, and trying lots of different things from Xanax, Valium, all these hard other things, and trying to deal with it. And it was turning her little liver up, right? And that was okay. But then they tried a little, some of this oil, marijuana oil, and all of a sudden she wasn't having seizures anymore. And this is a true story. And they did a similar story on a policeman, and same thing. And so, and it basically, this girl would go from having hundreds of seizures a day to maybe one or two, which was life changing for this gal. And she was able to go play with kids, live a normal life, and have a normal behavior. Started getting muscle growth. She wasn't just all scrawny and dilapidated. She was starting to she wasn't atrophy. You get muscle atrophy, but because you just can't do anything but sit there. So it's a and they found that marijuana really helped this gal, and it was a game changer. It was a life changing event for this gal. And we had an attorney general who was so asinine and stupid, and I don't know if it might have been, if Big Pharma didn't grease his pocket or not. I don't know. I'm not going to make that accusation. It's always a question in your mind. I don't say he did, but um, said if you don't quit giving her drugs like that, street drugs, he was going to charge them. What an ass, right? And they said, "Fuck you, I don't care." And they moved their family to Colorado, where this child now lives a normal life, and they don't get harassed by the government, right? And that's kind of stupidity and narrow-mindedness that we've been dealing with for a long time in government. Imagine that, right? And so finally, the president did the right thing. He saw the evidence. He's like, should have never been any question. This should have been done a long time ago, and there's no doubt that it has therapeutic value. This was established long ago. And a similar story with a cop. There was this cop who had seizures. He was all drawn up, and couldn't do anything. Like Trump making fun of that one guy, basically like that all the time, and he wasn't able to do anything. I don't know what the disease was. I can't remember, but he had. I don't know if it's MSMD with other things, and had seizures, and he was having a lot of trouble, right? And been a cop all his life, and it really hurt him when this happened. But so somebody went by and they said, "Well, this, we're going to do a film. We're going to document. This. We want you to try this and see what you think about it." And I'm sorry I'm not able to see the comments right now, but I do want to get through this. And it's in a weed show, but I feel strongly about it. It's very important. I know a lot of people out there are, I've seen a lot of comments, and not just the Shine community, but other comments on Facebook and other social media as well, about people that are anti-marijuana, and that's fine. This isn't about recreation. This isn't about getting high. This is about marijuana as a medicine. And this cop, he really needed it, and so it's like, okay, let's try it out. And the guy, I'm not going to sit mocking because I don't want to be thought of as somebody mocking him, but dude had a handicap for sure. And so they gave him a drop of this under his tongue, and it within minutes, literally within minutes, he wasn't drawn up. Is able to bend his wrist out straight, and he was able to move, and it just didn't have that tightness. He didn't have the vocal impairment that he had, and he was able to speak more clearly. And he's like, wow. He's like, this what that's marijuana. And then it kind of hit him, because he's like, wow, I've arrested a lot of people in my whole career, for doing this, and this is what it does. He'd never smoked it or did any of it, so he always assumed because of its schedule that it was a lot like LSD and heroin and angel dust and all these other things that have no therapeutic value that just put you out there, right? And my parents that way. My dad had no idea what marijuana was like. It was classified that way, so it was the devil's weed. It was horrible. And I got in lots of trouble, man. I mean, he went crazy on me because of weed and stuff. I'm like, it's not like that. And I never could convince him until later in life he realized, I guess he had some constituents and being at parties and stuff. I still don't think he'd ever smoked it. No, hell no. But he started realizing that it's not quite the Schedule One that that it right. So they moved it now to where it can be researched and people don't have to have that fear. Uh, but yeah, it helped that guy. That guy, I was like, wow, kind of thirsty. You want to get some lunch? So he got the munchies and, got thirsty, classic, you know, symptoms of it. And some of the research is nobody ever died from using marijuana. Now they made a synthetic marijuana. The pharmaceutical company tried to synthesize marijuana, and people died from synthetic marijuana. But from natural marijuana, nobody ever died from it. So I'm not necessarily saying that it should be recreational. I do know that in young minds, in kids and young developing brains, it's probably not good. It's they found that it's not great for you know young people to smoke it and use it regularly unless they need it therapeutically, of course. And in which case, like this gal or other cases where it's in smaller use, and I guess if they do some research on it, maybe they can isolate certain chemical compounds in it that will produce an effect that you can take out, eliminate the THCA and some of the THCs, and just isolate certain compounds, right? That's what we need. That's the research that we've needed on it for a long time, is to be able to take the high effect, the stuff that creates the high, away from it, if that's not part of the cure, right? So there's thousands of different chemical compounds in marijuana. It's very complex, very, very complex. And so now, 10, 20 years from now, once research has an opportunity to do some research on it, they're going to come out with some really, you know, new. There's no doubt in my mind they're going to come out with some really new natural drugs that will be a game changer for a lot of different afflictions. And I think that's good. And one thing people don't understand is our bodies. We have receptors in our brains for THC receptors. So it's almost like it's been around for a long time, and it's almost like it's we have receptors for it. And I'm not sure. I'm sure those receptors handle other things as well as THC, but we've got receptors in our brain that know how to deal with it, right? So it's really, that's kind of odd. It's really wild. Yeah, if you can, yeah, you can definitely reduce the hangover from the liquor. Now the problem I had a lot of at Maggie is a lot of sweet drinks, and a lot of sugary drinks. So it's not necessarily just making liquor right, but it's not drinking a lot of mixed drinks and not drinking a lot of drinks with heads, right? With alcohol with heads in it. So really heads the alcohol, like the Applejack, when they talk about freezing distillation, that should give you a mean hangover, like wine. If you drink too much wine, you'll get a mean hangover. It's because it's got heads in it. And those give you hangovers. All those esters and stuff will definitely give you some hangovers. But the next question is going to be, I didn't know he's going to go from wine show to cannabis show, but we didn't. I didn't see a lot of interest in talking about wine and brandies and stuff. So I mean, maybe we'll make a. I'll just make some posts for the group page and put some recipes on there, and maybe some how tos on winemaking, or maybe another time. But yeah, we can talk about whatever. It doesn't have to be distilling, and people distill, marijuana and stuff, and make different tinctures from it. So it's a little bit of a stretch, but hey, yeah, bad cuts and overindulgence. That's right. Yeah, there is, Mike. There is, and it's unbelievable. They've got stuff out there now that make fentanyl look like nothing. And fentanyl is like, to get a little bit on you, and it absorbs into your skin. If you don't have some, you know, uh, Narcan or something, you could die from it, right? So they got some stuff out there now that make that look bad, right? And it's crazy. But yeah, they've got some really high powered stuff in it. And the thing about it is it when it gets like that, Mike, and it gets on in the drug market, it's really hard to combine something like that and properly dose it, right? If you're adding it to, a filler, which is what they do, how do you get that one pinhead to, you know, cover the whole powder of a filler, right? So some parts of some pills that you press are going to be more concentrated than others. So unless you can break it down atomically or on a really small molecular basis, it's really hard to dose properly. And that was the problem with fentanyl, whatever, is that when they would just take it and dump it, mix it with, some coke or some kind of pain medicine, they'd break up all these pain pills and add some, fentanyl that they were getting cheap, and add that to it, and then add some cut, and then mix it all up, and then use these pill presses to make fake pills out of it. The different levels that went into the press was strikingly different. Sometimes they didn't get it all mingled and mixed properly together. So some are going to have, some pills get pressed have twice what another one did. So you get a bunch of kids out there taking pills, and well, everybody else had one and it didn't hurt them that much, and then all of a sudden you take one that has 2 or 3 times the strength in it, and you're on your way to the hospital if they can save you. We've lost hundreds of thousands of people, and it amounts to, it's chemical warfare. That's the only way to see it, is China is making these drugs, and they're sending it to Mexico. They're combining it in Mexico with other stuff, and bringing it into the country and killing Americans, and that's chemical warfare. I don't care how any way you want to look at it, that's what it is. And if you don't see it that way, you need to open your eyes, because that's exactly what it is. And that's just another way for them to kill us without actually having to declare war, right? Yeah, coffee and yeah, caffeine and nicotine, probably the most abused drugs. Yeah, yeah, and I'm not going to get political, but should have done it his first term. But there was a lot of influence. He didn't have Congress and everything behind him in his first term like he does now. But uh, and it shouldn't be a Democrat or Republican thing, but neither one of them did it in the past, right? Bush's didn't do it, and Clinton didn't do it, even though he partook in about every damn drug out there, you know. And now we got, you know, a lot of other past presidents, partied a little bit. Obama supposedly partied a little bit. We know Biden's son did a little bit of partying, that was all okay. But the hypocrisy is pretty crazy. So everybody, growing up, everybody knows somebody that smoked pot, Right. Just pretty much just about everybody. I mean, unless you were heavily sheltered as a child and never got out much, homeschooled and pretty heavily sheltered, most everybody knew somebody that smoked. So, and I guess that's how my dad finally, got, to where he was like, okay, maybe it's not so bad. I guess he was probably at a party or something and saw some people smoking and he scrutinized and watched them and they didn't make all these changes and they didn't act crazy like the what do they call it, the marijuana mania or what they call it, the shows they put on, the propaganda shows from back in the 30s and 40s to really scare people. Somebody smoked a joint and all of a sudden they're breaking out a chainsaw to kill people. And this was low. This was like 2-3% THC marijuana back then. This was like the low of the low. It's the worst pot ever. It's barely above hemp. And somebody smoking a joint or two of that, and all of a sudden there wasn't to be a chainsaw massacre, going on, and all. It was a lot of crazy stuff, propaganda, and it was all paid for by the pharmaceutical industries. No, I've done some Jaeger bombs, man. I've done the hell out of Jaeger. I used to drink a lot of Jägermeisters. I like his 100 proof coffee, man. It's good stuff. I like the peach too, but the peach is more of a dessert drink, kind of sweet, and it's good. It'd be good, but just to sit and drink like I am right now, I like that coffee. That's good stuff. And I think it should be. I just in states where it's legal, I don't want. Good to have you on here, Bike Boy. First time saying hi from UK. Been watching, listening for a few months when at work or driving. That's awesome. So you're one of those hundreds and hundreds of people I talk about. We'll get about anywhere from, 20 to 50 people. It depends. Like on Facebook, we'll have 20 to 50, and then on YouTube, we'll have, 100 or so. But in a few, over in a week or two, it gets into the thousands, and it's like, wow, where are all these people? I wish they'd chime in sometime and say hi. And it's people that listen to it, on their way to work. I said it's for on their way to work or at work or on their breaks and stuff. So it's awesome. I'm really glad that you jumped in and said hello and decided to get on here one of these nights. I guess it's pretty late over there in the UK. It's probably about 2:30 in the morning over there. But yeah, appreciate you, man. Glad you're on here. And if you got any questions, I'm glad you learned it. But if you do have any questions, man, be sure to jump in there and ask. And if you're on Facebook, go to DIY Shine and Steel Building, and we can help you with building a steel or with creating and building a mash. But back, yeah, I don't. I just don't want kids to have access to it. I did, and I'm sure it had an impact on me and stuff as it developmentally, but uh, I guess different kids handle it different ways. But they're saying it really um, has some cognitive impact on children, and who knows? Maybe it's why I'm a little bit starting. Well, it's pretty much a family trait for me. It's genetic to kind of lose a little bit as we get older. My whole family, most of my family, a lot of them, when we get older, we start to get a little Alzheimer's and Parkinson's and early onset of dementia and stuff. And that'll be me. I'll be the same. I'm guessing because I'm forgetful as hell now. I used to be a lot smarter than I am now. And it's. I try not to let it get me down, but it does. It does at times, and I just try to work past it. When I can't think of things, I just talk myself around it, and then I'll think about it as I'm talking about something else, and it'll eventually come to me, and then I'll mention it. But yeah, and I do gotta get this damn hat off, man. I knew I wasn't gonna make it all night with it. It's hotter than hell. These little hats are warm, man. They're great for Santa if you're on a sleigh and riding. I highly recommend them. They'll damn sure keep your head warm. But yeah, all right. Got some wild hair now. Yeah, maybe I should put it back on. Yeah, out in Oregon there, man. It's all, yeah, you can do anything you want to out there, man. And that's the way it should be. People should have the freedoms to do what they want. And, if they want to, you know, drink till they die, let them drink till they die. If they want to snort till they die, let them snort till they die. Give them the freedoms. They want to sell their body, let them sell their body. Hell, who we to tell what people should and shouldn't do? I mean, we do have to have laws when it affects other people, but when we're doing something on our own, I think it should be. What's going on, Elvin? Oh yeah, absolutely. There's a man that seems like he knows what he's talking about. Yeah, we got a friend of ours that gets on here, Glia's, kind of G Liz, Cody, great guy, and he's into the industry and does a lot. Yeah, there are a lot of strains, medicinal strains, and there is a lot, and that's what this gal I was talking about earlier, that they cut her funding, and this lady was doing some really really good research and helping a lot of veterans out, and helped them deal with the PTSD and other issues, and and they pretty much shut her down. So hopefully, now that it's rescheduled, she can pick back up, and other places can pick back up without that fear, right? Because the federal government definitely, they were going to cut the funding to that university unless they got rid of her. So they had to get rid of her, and she was very very astute and did it good. It sounds like, yeah, definitely. It's good to have people on here, Ellen. It's good. Thanks for joining the conversation. But yeah, I just it's not good for young minds. That's well, crazy enough. It was a conservative that changed the scheduling of it. So that's why I say it's not really. I don't think it is politically aligned either way. Um, I just think that and I do know that each side will try to, if it turns out to be a good thing that the voters want, they'll try to take credit for it. But neither one of them were willing to do it for long, many, many years. We've known this research and we've known the benefits of it for decades, and they've not done the first thing. And then that has nothing to do with anything except big pharma saying, no, we this is something that we're not able to uh, synthesize properly, and it's hard to patent a plant. So, but I'm sure they can isolate stuff off of it and make patents off their process. So I mean, they're not lost, but they do like being able to take chemicals and synthesize them their own instead of. Well, most of our medicine, if you look at it, it's plant based, and then they try to synthesize it and imitate it. They send a lot of researchers down into the jungles, and they meet with tribes, and they research in the past what tribes have done, and how they made natural remedies, and they see what isolate the active ingredient in that root, herb, whatever, and try to synthesize it and legalize it and patent it and make it the new schedule, new tier one drug or whatever, and make big bucks off of it, until it goes generic. Then they drop it and they don't care about it anymore because they can't make money on it. Yep. They wonder why I drink. Yeah, exactly. There you go, four plants. And it's whoever it is crazy. It's crazy that they look at, you can make beer, you can make wine, but you can't put that wine in a bucket and sit it outside and freeze it and then pull the ice out of it because that's illegal. Because you got concentrated alcohol now, and we want our taxes on that. It's all greed. They just want, if you're going to buy alcohol, you're going to get something with high alcohol content. they want their change. They want their money, and that's all what it boils down to. And unfortunately, the first tax that we ever had on us as Americans was back in Washington. George Washington imposed a tax on liquor. That was the first liquor, was the first tax that we ever had on us, and they haven't stopped since. Yeah, and it will. I mean that we're pushing for that, and and it's there's the Home Distillers Association. There's American Distillers Association. There's a lot of home distilling clubs and associations that are trying to do that. If you want to get with them, supposedly there is a not supposedly there is legislation going through Texas right now, and hopefully they get it, and it becomes maybe even goes national, because I do think it's a constitutional thing, and I think it's part of our pursuit of life, liberty, and our pursuit of happiness. It's part of our pursuit of happiness. Did you? Interesting. Well, what about that little bird in Peanuts? And his name Woodstock. They fuck with Schultz over it, because I think that little bird in the Peanuts was around for that concert, and it's just the name of a town. I think you got sued and you had to settle because you didn't probably attorneys didn't want to spend the money to. Right. Yeah, it's pretty tough because really Woodstock is the name of the bird and the Peanuts. That came before the concert. So, and Woodstock is something that's also on a gun and the name of a town. I don't know. It's maybe if you put like Woodstock Festival together or something. I don't know. That's interesting, and I can see where they might, but yeah, it's funny how those things work. You'd think after so long though that they wouldn't even have those rights anymore. Absolutely. That's good. That's good. Shame that they charge you a fee though. Yeah, we may have to go with Shine Stock or Weed Stock, Weed Shop, Moon Stock. There we go, Moon Stock. I like it. Moon Stock. I like Moon Stock. That's good, Shadow. How's it going? Cheers. Yeah, let's have another sippy sip. It's Saturday, right? We'll probably cut her off at 10 here tonight. Not getting a lot of distilling questions. Everybody's getting a little happy. I guess it's right before Christmas and everybody's getting festive. So you called it, brother. Oh, hell, that's 20 minutes ago. Jeez, I'm already 20 minutes behind. Damn, let me scroll through here quick. Yeah, it was Gump. That's funny, man. Mark's got good sense of humor. Oh, the medical uses, it's 100% cart for sure. I've seen it with my own eyes. It is 100% medicinal and definitely helps. I mean, now 100 or 1 of 1,000, each affliction is like that. So if you look at just for example, being born healthy, there's 1 in 100 children born have this, 1 in 1,000 have this, 1 in 10,000 have this. There's just a huge list of all the different, things that you can be born with, and it's all put to numbers. So, of course, when people talk of afflictions and people that it can benefit, when you speak of certain, ailments and issues, then that would be that 1 in 1,000 or that 1 in 100 or that 1 in 50. But yeah, it's got some. There are some powerful. I understand that some people may be vehemently against it recreationally, but it is hands down 100% a medicinal drug that does have 100%. If you'd just seen that this child, they did a special on this child in Kentucky, and if you could see the difference in her from the before and after, I mean, you're looking at a little girl laying in bed with just bones. She was skin and bones, basically, total muscle apnea, didn't get out and play, really pale, didn't get out in the sun, couldn't eat a lot because they were afraid, she was fed a lot intravenously. So she was bedridden her whole life. And I mean, she lived in bed pretty much trembling her whole life. And she was, probably 10, 12, and she'd lived 10, 12 years like this. And they were pumping her full of Valium and Xanax, and they were frying this little girl's liver, so they were fucking her up. And sure enough, they put a little drop of marijuana oil, on her tongue, and within just minutes, man, it was a night and day change. It's 100% fact. It really made that big of an impact and that bit and that quickly on this little girl. So, it was just a life changing thing for her. It was just her whole life changed. And then, a few months after this, she had a pretty much a normal life. I mean, this isn't bullshit. This isn't some pothead coming up with some cockamamie bullshit story. This is fact. And this little girl's life changed, and it showed pictures of her out playing with children. Her muscles started developing, started getting color in her skin, started eating well, and started living a normal life. So, I mean, how can you deny? You just can't deny that. Now, her affliction, probably 1 in 1,000, maybe even more. But, you know, so are a lot of other things that they make a lot of medicine for. How many people have PTSD? 1 in 10,000, there's a lot, billions of people out there. So, but if you're one of those numbers, it means a lot to you. And so it is 100% though. It's not a question, back in the past, it was always a question, what if maybe, I don't know, it's just a bunch of potheads wanting to get it legalized so they can smoke. And that's the way pretty much everybody viewed it. But, if you look at the anecdotal evidence, it's fact, it's really helping some of these kids with afflictions, who was it that commented earlier that seemed to be very knowledgeable? Elvin. Ask him. He seems very knowledgeable on different afflictions that it has cured, and it's true. It really is. It's not a if anymore. We do know that it does have the medicinal value, and it had to be rescheduled. Black tea and skeeter pea. All right. So that's a little kombucha and skeeter pea. Now, what kind of shine you making there? And we can help it to where it doesn't make it. Doesn't give you that headache. Oh, we can get those heads out of there for you. Christmas mead. Yeah, I can't wait. Dan's gonna send me some Christmas mead, honey mead. I tell you, tried some of Philbilly's honey shine and Toby's honey liquor, both real good. So I'm looking forward to trying Dan's as well. It's I like honey mead. It's good stuff. Christmas mead. Now I make a spearmint shine that's really good, and a peppermint shine. Now you can take just regular neutral and drop in the peppermint sticks, and it'll dissolve in there. And it's kind of snappy. It makes it mentholated, kind of like a snappy, and it's good. everybody that's tried it, I run it through a coffee filter to take out all the little floaties. You'll get some floaties in there with it, but it actually makes a pretty good drink. You just make your own vodka neutral and or a regular shine, sugar shine, whatever whatever you want to make, whatever neutral you want to make, and proof it down and add those sticks to it. And you can get the spearmint sticks, peppermint sticks, and or you can use just I've done just steeped it in mint leaves, and that's also really good. So yeah, it's very interesting. But yeah, the peppermint sticks were real popular. Made a little peppermint schnapps, like I guess you could say. It was really good, Elvin. And I'm behind. I'm sorry. Almost 20, 30 minutes behind. I guess time I get caught up, it'll fentanyl. I've not heard of that. Maybe that's what they were talking about earlier. That makes fentanyl look like nothing. I mean, pinhead size stuff that can kill hundreds of people. Right? It's crazy, crazy, crazy. Yeah, we used to call them blue stumble biscuits. Methaqualone is basically a horse tranquilizer for those that don't know. Lemon and who was it? Lemon and who was the other company? Roar, Roars and Lemons was the companies that made them, and they used them for humans too. But we all know, we all have friends, or we all know, well, when you get my age, we all have friends that had children and cousins that have died from it. Everybody pretty much knows somebody that smoked. And now, sadly enough, everybody knows somebody that's died from fentanyl poisoning. And I'm stuck in the past on this 30 minutes behind, but um, hopefully, I don't know if we change the subject or not. It looks like it's changed a little bit, but yeah, unfortunately, we all know somebody, and it's chemical warfare on us. There, if you talk to a lot of doctors that deal with a lot of people with crippling, strokes, or have a lot of issues with trying to look for the word, man. I'm getting bad. Um, Seizures, when they have a lot of seizures, a lot of epileptic patients are getting a lot of treatments from it, and it's doing a lot of good. Um, but no, you see those videos because um, there's not a lot out there. Most of the research is privately done. They can't divulge. There's a confidentiality between the doctor and the patient, so they just can't put it out there. And but for the ones that did, the ones you see, was done by people wanting to open eyes, really trying to show the government that this is real, that this is happening, and you don't see a lot of it because most people don't want that being known about them, or doctors just can't share it without permission and stuff, and a lot of people just and a lot of the pharmaceutical industry don't want it. They don't want that shared. Yeah, reefer madness was what I was thinking of. Yeah, yeah, it was crazy. No, it definitely was. The weed back in the day was around 6 to 8% THC. Some of the best you could get, like the Hawaiian or something like that, would be maybe 12 to 16. Just the dynamite stuff. But and then now what you mean back then? How far back then are we going, Mike? So I'm going back into the 60s and 70s. If you're in the 80s and 90s, then yes, it was considerably stronger then, because the Netherlands had already kind of started doing a lot of research on it, and creating a lot of new strains, and I guess, selectively breeding it for certain traits, and so it increased, dramatically over time. But yeah, back in the old days, weed had, but it had a different chemical composition, and the buzz was different then than it is now. Trust me, I mean, I smoked in the '60s and all the way up until now, so um, it's changed a lot, since I was a kid, and it's a lot more concentrated. Trust me, it's much more. Even you can just look at the difference in the last 10, 15 years, how much it's increased percentage wise. Used to 20% was pretty much max. Now shit, it's 30, 40, and I'm talking about just the plant, not concentrating, right? They do have a test kit for fentanyl now. There is. They do have a fentanyl test kit. But yeah, I don't think it's I don't grow it anymore. I used to grow it indoors, and when I was a kid I grew it outdoors. Yeah, statute of limitations run out on that shit long ago, bro. I mean, I don't even smoke a lot anymore. It makes the new stuff is so concentrated it makes me sick. I can't smoke it. And it could be physiologically too, some changes in my age and stuff. But yeah, it's hard for me to smoke much anymore, man. I do sometimes I'll do a little. You see these little one hit bats, with concentrated stuff of today. I just one little one hit is enough. But I'm getting old, and I just want to maintain my lungs, and I might need a little gummy or something from now on. If I were going to do something, it would probably definitely be a gummy. But really weary of edibles because I did some edibles when I was younger, and it was really concentrated, and well, not a lot younger, but it was really really concentrated, and we tripped on it, and it's like it wasn't. It was okay for me, but the other people that did it, some ended up wanting to go to the hospital, and some, were really panic stricken from it. Uh, but we were tripping for sure on it. So it's really hard to dose. So I'm really weary of edibles, but I'd probably, 15-gram gummy or something like that. It's not really concentrated or something. I'd probably nibble on one of those till I felt good. But yeah, well, we just have some open conversations. We're just here to chat. If I'm here for questions about distilling. If I'm not getting distilling questions, I'll sit and talk about anything y'all want to. I enjoy the conversation. If we get somebody say, hey, I want to talk about distilling. Now we do have the majority of listeners are going to be like, what the fuck, man? I mean, where did this come from? I want to hear them talk about this. So let's get it out of our systems tonight because I don't want to talk politics, religion, and talk about. I don't want to make it a marijuana show. We can do that um, for another podcast, but for this one, after tonight, we'll get back to our regularly scheduled stuff and we'll talk about it regardless whether we get questions or not. We'll try to. Yeah, that was old Clinton's thing. I did not inhale. Lying motherfucker. He inhaled. He's did a lot worse than that. Oh, I know. Yeah, they do. And alcohol can kill you. You're not going to smoke weed to the point where you die. I mean, you're going to fall asleep. You're going to get hungry and eat, and go to sleep, or but a synthetic you can. But there's been more people that die from baby aspirins than there have been from marijuana. So yeah, it's not a real toxic thing. I guess there might have been some people out there that might have some major allergies to it and had allergic reactions that caused, them to swell up and not be able to breathe and may have passed from that, but just, but that was an allergic reaction that caused their death, not the, the, the substance itself, right? For 1 liter barrel, uh, it wouldn't take long. 1 liter is I'm looking at 2 liter pop is 2 liters is what 4 liters for a gallon. So this is basically a quart, less than maybe a liter. Is that equivalent to a quart? I'm gonna have to do the conversion here. Yeah, it's about a quart. Yeah, a liter and a quart's about the same. 1.05 quarts is a liter. So yeah, a quart barrel, you're going to look at a few weeks to a month or two, depending on how it was charred and the proof of the liquor going into it. That all has an impact on it. But yeah, it would. Why does that not change? Okay, um, but it'll happen pretty quickly, and it'll be really oaky and smoky, and not so much barrel. You're not getting that time involved. You're not getting a lot of time for the esterification of acids, organic acids, and oils are natural in it, the fusel oils. So you're not going to get a lot of that reaction that happens over time. So it's just going to be a lot more tannins. So it might have a little more bitterness to it, but I don't mind that. I don't mind short age stuff. It's I do like the whiskey kind of flavor that it adds. It's not mature like a fine bourbon, but it's a white dog and it's a month old out of a stave, right? So I don't expect that. So as long as you don't have those high expectations of getting a Weller out of a moonshine that's been put on staves for a month or two, or in a small barrel for a month, just don't have your expectations too high. Absolutely, we got time, and hopefully you stuck with us long enough to get to this point. Vodka distillation, basically, you can make vodka with about anything. Technically, to be a vodka, it has to be distilled to a certain proof, which is over 190 proof. So once you reach that proof and that purity, once you get something distilled, that's considered a very neutral spirit, Death. So the way you do that is with reflux. So you can have a column that can give you enough reflux where a lot of the water, vapors they condense in the column and fall back down, whereas the alcohol goes on out, and your proof is very high. And that's technically the best way to get a good vodka in your distillation is by adding a column and a deflegmator at the top. And that basically, um, the water is the first thing to condense, right? And that vapor, once it starts to cool, water wants to drop off first, right? And the higher volatiles like alcohol go on up and out. So that's basically, you can make it with wheat, you can make it with corn, you can make it with rice, you can make it with sugar, you can make vodka out of pretty much anything. They're doing a lot of wheat vodkas these days. They tend to like the sweet wheat vodkas. It makes a good, a good vodka. There's corn vodkas. There's potato vodkas, of course, from the traditional vodka. So that, you can make it pretty much with anything, but by TTB standards, I think it has to be 190 some proof. I think 194 or something like that. 190. Yeah, it's 190 proof plus, and then you proof it down, right? So you get it up to 190 plus, and then you just add water back to it. Strangely enough, you get it neutral, and then you add that water back to it, and it kind of remains that neutral spirit, and it's just real clean, and you're able to add pretty much anything to it that you want to make a mixer. It makes a good clean shot, right? It doesn't have a lot of other flavors that are in. I'm sorry it took me a while to get to you. I'm sure Clint probably took care of that one. Um, but yeah, that's basically vodka is a very popular distillate because it's so easy to do. You don't have to dealing with flavor retention. You're getting rid of all your flavors, so that's you're not doing a brandy and then turning it into vodka because you're just defeating the purpose of spending all that money on the fruit. So you can basically a lot of people do the sugar wash vodkas because it's so cheap to do. Corn vodka is very cheap to do. Make a corn and distill it to a neutral, and very, very inexpensive and very smooth. It makes a really good smooth vodka. But wheat is probably one of your more award-winning vodkas made with a high wheat content because of the sweetness and the flavor. It retains a kind of a unique sweetness, even distilled to that high proof. So it's making some of the award-winning vodkas are now made out of wheat, uh, and a lot still are made out of potatoes. It's an inexpensive way to make it, and it's good stuff. Good question, bro. I'm glad we got back to talking about liquor. I didn't want this to be the marijuana show, but I don't care. As long as if y'all want to talk about anything, but the crowd, what we talk about here in chat is a very small percentage of what, of the people that actually listen to the podcast. So I do want to kind of gear it towards what y'all want to talk about, tonight and in the chat. But at the same time, we got a lot of people out there that I don't know. Some of them will probably be interested in this topic. We don't talk about it a lot. We're not going to talk about it a lot, but we'll get it out of our systems tonight and talk about it because it is important and it is something new in the news. And I don't want to make it a political thing because I don't think it should be. And everything's politicized these days. So I try to get out of politics because I mean I do have my opinions, but these days it's really hard for people to talk about politics, religions, and other things without uh, getting upset. And used to people could voice their opinions without getting mad. And I don't blame anybody except maybe the media for driving people to this hysteria level where it's become a hysteria where we can't just sit and talk like adults and go over certain things and talk about things and agree to disagree and go on and laugh and shake hands and have a shot and continue. So um, it's it's the times are changing, and I don't like what I'm seeing. I'm 62, going on 63, and I've seen so much change in the last 10, 15 years. Uh, and trust me, it's the media that's driving. It's an agenda. It's the media is the tool, but there's people behind it that are influencing the media, and I don't want to get involved in all that. But it's not good, and I don't like where they're trying to take things, and they have to be stopped. Let's just leave it at that. Oh, it's all right. We usually don't, and it's you're fine, brother. We're glad we're here for questions. We do distilling, but like I said, I try to talk about whatever chat's talking about. But this will be our one time where we can kind of get off and off on a tangent. But I don't want to make it about that. If y'all are interested in a Mary Jane podcast, we can do that too. But I definitely want to try to stay on topic but gotta have the questions. I like having the questions. So uh, but otherwise, we can just sit and ramble on and talk about the distilling and things like that. And that's what I really want to do, regardless of whether we get the questions or not. We are going to do wine tonight. We got away from it. And I know it's not a wine channel, but with Brandy, and we may, get JJ on here to help us with some beer and some of our beer making buddies, and maybe we'll talk about beer one night. So it's not just about distilling, but I'd like to keep it on alcohol, and and maybe we could do uh, once a month or something. We could do a marijuana podcast if y'all want to. I mean, I've done quite a bit of research and experimentation with it in all my days, so I've seen the changes in the industry and grown a little back in the day. No, you're good, brother. We talk about everything here, but usually we're more geared like some of the prior episodes. If you want to, but yeah, bring your questions. We're here for questions primarily, Death. So if you got any question, we're here to answer your questions. And if you want to learn more about making vodka, we can certainly help you with that. I've turned out some of the best damn vodkas I can. I got jars in there of vodkas I've made that make Tito's look like trash. You know, I've made some really good vodkas. So, and I put it next to Tito's. Everybody's talking about Tito's, how good Tito's was, and I'm like, okay, well let's try this out. So I put my vodka next to Tito's, and I'm like, it's just garbage, man. And if you taste it side by side, you'd agree too. Most people would. I'd say I'd say a good 90 out of 100 people would definitely pick mine over that because it's trash, in my opinion. But we can do maybe a Sunday because I definitely want to keep my distilling and Tuesdays and Saturdays do the distilling thing, but maybe once a month, first Sunday of the month or something, we can do a Sunday shit show. If you want to do a shit show, well, we're free to do that if we want to. We can just talk about whatever. But I'm not going to get into a political discussion. We've talked about doing a political thing, and I don't see any benefit in it. You know, it just ends up pissing people off and getting people mad at you, and it's just I don't want any of that. Strawberry banana is a good combination, but I will tell you, um, it's going to have a big cap. If you've not done a lot of banana up to this point or ever done any banana, it will develop probably the largest cap on any fermentation that you'll see, and I mean massive. So leave lots and lots and lots of room. That's all I can say. You don't want your first banana run to leave about that much space. No, double, right? I'm talking double. So you want to go half up that barrel with your banana and leave yourself plenty of room for air because it can get bad. Yeah, the Rick Simpson oil. Yeah, we can talk about all that. We can do a Sunday show. We can just talk about anything once a month or something, or every month or two. If y'all want to do one, and we can schedule one, sit there and get drunk, talk about marijuana or whatever. But I'm not going to do politics. I'm not going to do religion. I'm not going to do the Christian Islam thing. I'm not going to do the right versus left thing politically. People got their opinions on that, and I don't think I'm going to change them. And it just gets people mad at you, and I don't want to offend anybody. So that's why I like talking about. Marijuana usually doesn't offend people, and alcohol talking about that doesn't offend people. Man, that's interesting, brother. Garlic cilantro. Wow, very interesting. Now I won't do watermelon, and I can't imagine raisins. Raisins, you got a good flavor, but watermelon, I'll never fool with that anymore. Boysenberry, blueberry, I'll do any berries and all that, but uh, I'm not. I've done watermelon once, and I don't think I'll fool with it anymore. Maybe if I could do it in a cool environment, it might help it, but I really wasn't impressed with it. It didn't make a good wine or a good shine. But it'll probably be an all right vodka because I'm going to neutralize the shit out of it. I'll probably run it through a column twice. It might need it. Yeah, yeah. Those MCs love their moonshine, man. Well, my goal is to fill a couple 15-gallon barrels and a five. And the five is something I'm going to be able to drink, pretty quickly. But the 15s are something that's going to age over a longer period of time. So that'll be pretty good. Well, when you get to that point, Carpenter, you can take advantage of it. A lot of people cook with these, with these malt vinegars and wine vinegars. So it's not going to be something you can drink, but you can use it for cooking, and it makes it. So I've used mine. Some of my wines that turned to vinegar. I just turn lemon into lemonade, and use it for cooking. It works perfectly fine. What's going on, Cole? All right, that sounds good. We'll do another sippy sip. This coffee's going down pretty well, pretty quickly. Like that name. I've got some sharp relatives. They make a good rifle too, those sharps. Got a good name, brother. I like it. Sound like a quarterback, doesn't he? Colton Sharp. You did over the smiley face too? Damn, bro. Yeah, you have to look at the screen and not the chat on the side. You have to actually look at the screen chat in the bottom left because it shows the cross platform chat. Yeah, it's a bacteria. It's called acetobacters. It's technically a bacteria. It's an acetobacter, and it's an acetic acid bacteria, and usually transported a lot with fruit flies, but it's on a lot of surfaces, like you say. Yeah, it's a bacteria. So actually, it's vinegar. It's acetobacter. It's acetic acid. It's mother of vinegar. You're just creating vinegar. That's how they make it. So yeah, it's fine. There's a lot of good bacteria, right? Probiotics, full of good bacteria. Yeah, we were talking with Max, the one we were talking about before, that is making vinegar. Yep. Yeah, some molds are horrible, some are good. Um, there's good bacteria, bad bacteria. There's good funguses. We know some good funguses. We use it in distillation all the time. Our yeast and a lot of our we use fungus to help break things down with our amylase, right? So yeah, and yogurt. So I'm also skipping through a lot of this, trying to catch up. Yeah, there's a lot of molds that are actually I'm not sure if blue mold is penicillin, but it is technically a mold. Yeah, I can't believe Clint did that, man. It was all going fine until he had sidetracks. Yeah, penicillin is it's isolated and grown under very strict clean conditions and clean labs and in petri dishes and fed specifically and grown, kind of like mushrooms, and you have to be really sterile not to get any other things in it that could be a problem. So yeah, it's I'm not gonna get talking about making meth and LSD. Y'all crazy. No, I can't do that. I'm not going to talk about that. I don't want them thinking I'm trying to teach people how to make meth. Man, that's, oh Lord, Lord, y'all killing me. You're gonna get me banned off Facebook. I don't know. It would be interesting. A little tater water. If you like tater water. Well, on, George. Good to see you, brother. Let's see, 10, 12. I'm getting caught up. I'm scrolling through a lot of the small talk here. Yeah, iodine's definitely a good pure. They got tablets that they use for water purification, the old method. But now I think these just pretty much boil and have um, the filtration. Trying to think of this filtration through permeable rubbers. Oh man, my mind drinking too much. Reverse osmosis, man. I'll tell you, my mind's not where it used to be. I used to be able to. It's frustrating. But yeah, RO. A lot of just do the boiling water in RO nowadays, and place the iodine. But that iodine and salt. You have to have a little bit of that in your body to help uh, get prevent goiters and stuff. So yeah, yeah. I don't mind talking about it, but I know there's a lot of people out there. We have our discussions, but we have literally thousands of people that listen to this each week. And I don't know if they're ready for tonight's show or not, but it'll be, it's something. Every once in a while, yeah, I agree. We can kind of broaden the scope of what we talk about and talk about some other things. It's something I'm passionate about too, with especially because of the bad name marijuana has been given its whole life since it's been around and in my life. And I used to enjoy smoking it. I'm not gonna lie. I used to enjoy mellowing out and relaxing to it. I think it was very therapeutic for me. Some people use different things. Some people use alcohol for the same thing, to come home, relax, and have a drink. Some people go to the bar and relax after work, have a drink. For me, it's just smoke a joint, relax, and after a hard day's work, and so I kind of drank a little bit more than, or smoked a little bit more than I drank at one point in time. Um, but there's other times that I drank more than I smoked. So, and there's sometimes that I did a lot of both. But so yeah, it's therapeutic for everybody, and we all have our alcohol. We enjoy drinking, and some do it for flavor, some do it for effect, some do it for feeding an addiction. In that case, I hope they get the help that they need. For me, I don't think I was ever, I was never addicted to marijuana. I gave it up when I my ex gave birth to my child. I gave up everything. I quit smoking cigarettes. I quit drinking. I quit smoking weed, and I didn't want that around my child, right? So I was kind of funny about that. I was. I mean, it was, one day I was doing it, one day I wasn't. I quit that quickly, everything, and was straight for a long time, and so I never really went through any DTS or anything like that. Never, I guess tobacco. I didn't quit really tobacco. I quit smoking weed right off and drinking immediately, but the weed immediately. But the cigarettes, I guess maybe she was 6 or 7 when I quit, and decided just to quit the cigarettes too because I wanted to be around a little longer and watch her grow up. And so decided to give up smoking cigarettes too. And it's been I guess over 10 years now that I gave that up. So she might have been 10, I guess, when I quit. But yeah, yeah, that's why, if we want to, we can do a little Sunday shit show, or come on the show on Saturday or on Fridays when the militia has a shit show. Jump on there, and everybody's welcome. Get on there just the same as here. When we do a shit show, hell, you can jump on and turn your cams on and be seen. If you don't want to be seen, you can turn your mic on, but you got to do one or the other. You can't just get in there and just sit without a mic or without a cam. But yeah, I mean, well, they do a shit show once a month. We can get on there. Yeah, we can do a mead show, and really, like a mead is like a honey wine. Basically, you're making a honey wine. It's the same thing as a honey wine. And so instead of using a fruit, you're just using honey, and fermenting that. And after that, the process is very similar. Definitely want to stop fermentation earlier in a mead. And that way you can retain some of that sweetness without it, finishing off. So definitely we can talk about meads and wines, and get JJ and some of these other beer makers in here talk about, step mashing up a beer, and what they, doing the beer thing. Because I've never really ever made beer for beer. All my mashing is done from high heat down, whereas for beer they start cool and work up, so it's a little bit different, right? So it's an interesting process, step mash process. So we step down where they step forward, and so, but you can do both. You can use your adjunct grains and make your beer with everything but the corn and bring those up and step those up to the 150, 55 that you add your malts, and you can do your corn, gelatinization and all that first, and work the temperatures back. And when you get to 150, you can combine them all and go from there with any, more exogenous enzymes that you want to add to it, break it on down. But yeah, it's very interesting. Antarctica cookbook, Lord have mercy, you're gonna get us all banned. Oh my goodness, yeah, they got everything in there. I'm the same way, Mark, and I'm glad I'm not the only one. And 10 years ago when I started doing the wine thing, and I was the same way. It's like, after a certain point in time, it's like, well, I'm not going to distill this anymore, man. I'm tired of going from something that tastes so good to something that, I'm just picking up notes of what I once had. So I also went through a period of time when I would combine, some of the distilled brandy with the wine and make a fortified high proof wine, which was also damn good. I like that. But it's different, right, than just drinking a good wine that and aged properly where it doesn't have that astringent alcohol. And I think another thing that's really difficult for a lot of shiners to do and a lot of distillers to do, once you get on the mindset of maximizing the amount of alcohol in your mash. That's always our goal, is to maximize that alcohol without adding too much sugar, right? So we want to, and in winemaking, that's not necessarily the goal. In fact, sometimes it goes against you. So once you get to a certain point, you want to stop fermentation. You want to retain some of that sweetness. So you're adding potassium metabisulfate and potassium sorbates and things like that to stop the fermentation process, and to retain sweetness, and keep that wine, a good sweet wine. And then you want to take that, age it over time to get some rid of that, the sharp alcohol flavor, into a more smooth alcohol that combines with the wine a lot better, and it's a lot smoother, so it's less astringent. I like using that word because that's a pretty good descriptor of alcoholy taste. A lot of people say, "What's if I want to get rid of that alcoholy taste?" And astringent, I guess, is a good word for that. Strawberry hibiscus, man, y'all make some interesting combinations, Richard. Very creative. Yeah, and palmetto. A lot of people like the palmetto flowers, and they make a good. You should try that. We have a big tree in my neighbor. Well, I've got one started. My neighbor's has a huge one. I've got a medium one started. But yeah, they make a pretty good little wine. And good floor notes for like a gin. I'm gonna try to start doing some interesting gins. You kill me, bro. That's funny. Yeah, yeah. We talk about everything, but we try to generally stay on topic. So don't judge us if this is your first night listening or watching. This is deviation from the norm, but it's fun. We're having fun and getting a little slap happy and probably drink a little more than sometimes usual. And getting off on these marijuana tangents, but yeah, we can do a Sunday show or something separate. We'll call it a something a little different, and we can talk about anything. But I don't. Again, I'm not gonna get trapped in talking politics because that's just I could do a podcast on it and I could voice my opinion and half the people would love me, half the people would hate me. And I could get, I'm not about followers, but man, you can make a political podcast, get 100,000 people loving it, and then you're going to get 100,000 people hating it too. And I don't want it. I don't want half the people out there hating me. I want everybody to love me, right? So I'm not going to talk about that. Help manage the cap. Basically, the acetobacters is it's the origins of the mother of vinegar. So um, the actual bacteria is, it's like a chicken egg thing. I don't know which comes first. I guess you got to have the mother bacteria to create the acetic, but it's acetic acid is the base, and you can create that. It's an organic acid. There's lots of ways that you can create it, but it's generally on decaying fruit is a place that it's found most commonly, and a lot of fruit flies will pick that up and they'll transfer it. So you can decay fruit and you can get the organic acetic acid started and go from there and make a mother of vinegar. I mean, I promised you I would read more into that. And I've read about it before, and I don't remember enough of what I read before. It was when I was doing more when I started winemaking. It's been years and years since I've read all that and how it forms and how it proliferates. But it's basically picked up from rotting, decaying fruit, and these fruit flies pick that bacteria up and carry it over into your wine. And your wine, of course, acetobacters, I guess they feed on alcohol. So they they feed on alcohol using oxygen to oxidize into acetic acid vinegar. And the process is crucial. And I'm just reading this, because I've done this research, and it's exactly what I said a minute ago, but this might make a little more sense. Process crucial for vinegar production, but a spoilage issue in wine and beer, right? So you can basically, if you want to make vinegar, you can start with a wine or a beer. You can infect it with these acetobacters, which is a natural. You can naturally get it off decaying fruit, or these fruit flies just let them in. I mean, take off the airlocks and welcome them in. Because that's what's gonna to help process it and create this mother of vinegar. And these aerobic bacteria, they need air. So that's why when we talk about our process in winemaking and mash making, we try to do closed fermentation, not necessarily for grains because that happens so quickly that you really don't have a lot of time for this bacteria to establish and build. because 3 to 5 days is just in a big, huge vat that beer makers have or mash makers have. With a grain mash is, I mean, it takes a while for this to establish and take hold. It's a very slow process, right? Um, so you don't really worry about it. You can open ferment those things, but things that take longer fermentation, like wines, that you're going to be, doing a primary and a secondary ferment, and it's going to take months, if not years, to get to where you want to be, then airlocks are essential. You don't see any good winemakers open fermenting their wine. I'm sorry, it just doesn't happen. Some people can, and more power to you. If you want trash, you're gonna get trash. But but I'm not saying you have to have that for grains. So don't misinterpret me. It's perfectly fine to have an open ferment for grains because it's done in 3 to 5 days if you're doing it right. But if you're one of those, well, I made my mash and, I've got to fly out to work and it's going to be, a month or two before I can get back and run this mash, then yeah, you probably should have started with a covered mash. If you're going to be limiting yourself, it's going to be 6 months before I get around to distilling this. I got it started. Can I start this tote now and distill it 3 months from now? Sure. Just keep it covered and keep a lot of these things out and keep it anaerobic, and you'll keep the bacteria and other things down, and you won't have to worry about critters getting in there, put an airlock on it, and they want to introduce these acetobacters because these acetobacters feed on alcohol, just like yeast feed on sugar, and lactobacillus feed on alcohol too. It's a similar thing. It's different bacteria, but both bacteria, both organic source. Both organic acids created, um, and that's how those different bacteria work, and they feed on that alcohol. But you can make your vinegar starting out with a wine like that. Sure can. And it's great to cook with. It's not the worst thing in the world. A lot of people use wine vinegar for cooking. Yeah, they are. Yeah, I don't want to talk about them. I have in the past, and I might have offended some people. I'm pretty strong opinionated, but I don't think most of my thoughts aren't either one side or the other. I think that it's pretty much a common sense thing. So I think in that sense, I think everybody should think the same way. And unfortunately, people don't. So yep. And you can make good little filters that way. And you can also take gravel and then take some charcoal. And if you have like a bamboo, I've seen them do this with bamboo. They hollow it out and they'll pack some charcoal in the bottom and put some gravel crushed stone on top of that. And you can definitely take some rock and cook it and crush it, and it'll definitely purify the water. Yeah, they some of the concretes they made. It's amazing that we've lost the technology to make some of the concretes that they made in the past that exceed what the cement and concrete our technology can do today, even with our fiber content concrete. They've got some stuff they made back in the day. It's like, all the masons of today, they're like scratching their heads. How did they make this? Because it's lasted, you know, thousands of years, man. And our concrete, won't last that long. It's amazing. So yeah, we talk about everything from marijuana to concrete to meth. My God. Yeah. Well, the thing about honey, and people don't realize, is honey and yeast don't get along, right? Because honey is kind of a antiseptic, and we use it to uh, help cleanse our body, and it's kind of it can kill yeast. Honey can. So and it kind of stresses them. So yeah, I guess certain types of honey would probably be better than others, but I know somebody's gonna bring up mad honey in a minute. But yeah, honey's got some interesting characteristics that it breaks down certain bacterias and illnesses and viruses and things. So it doesn't necessarily work well with all yeasts. Um, and maybe that's why they've got specific yeasts that work a little better with it. Never really thought about it that way, but yeah. Yeah, you can. Yeah, the same ones that we use, the crushed, oyster shells that we use. Those you can crush those up. Coral makes a great filter. Yeah. But yeah, it's best to boil it. Run it through that to remove particulates and viruses and little floaties and stuff. But after you do that, I'd still want to boil it, right? But yeah, what you're all talking about a lot too. I was talking about earlier with Mark Morgan before I was on here is that maybe doing a in the DIY shine and steel building page, we might start incorporating um, some holistic medicine, tinctures, making tinctures with your shine, and maybe off the grid living and survival techniques and things like that. Because these are all, I think, things that we all have in common. Most of us like. There's some people out there that may not be interested in any of that, but canning. Kind of getting back to learning how to can meat and make canned canning your vegetables and how to do that and preserving food with because if things get bad, a lot of people are going to be lost. They're not going to have, the knowledge that some of us old timers have that we learned, from our grandparents and stuff who, basically never bought canned beans, canned goods. They canned them themselves. They had little gardens. They grew their own beans. They'd can them and they never, I don't remember ever seeing a can in my grandmother on my dad's side. I don't remember them using canned corn and canned green beans. And they all, their whole basement was just shelves full of, they grew a garden every year and it was full of fresh vegetables and tomatoes and, corn and green beans and everything, was there's this massive amounts of, canned goods down there jarred up in jars, right? I'm thinking back, I can't, and jellies and jams, everything. I can't ever remember them having jelly from the store or canned goods, Del Monte and all that. And just they no, no, and theirs was much better, than any of the canned stuff you get. And people today, that's totally foreign to them, and they would not know how to do that. Yeah, yeah. We get in our ferments, we have several things working. We got anaerobic bacteria with no oxygen. We've got temperature. We like to keep the temperature a little bit down, and we've got the high acidity levels, and those are all things that you want in canning, in a high temperature, right? We use the temperature bath to kill everything off, but you have to have acidity levels at a certain point. So you're either adding some citric acid to your canned goods, or you're adding, tomatoes, stuff that had tomatoes in it didn't really need that much acid added because you didn't need it. But in a lot of things, you're adding a little citric acid to it to help it preserve, and that was the preservative of the day, citric acid. And now they got a lot of whole host of chemicals and other things that they add. But yeah, we may start expanding what we talk about there in the encourage more, conversation and more chat and engage more posts and informative posts. And, we can have maybe some little side chats in there and talking about canning. And I like canned meat. A lot of people don't know that you can even can meat and it lasts for a long time and it's much better than freezing it. Is it the blue? I wasn't sure if it was or not. I do know that some of the molds are toxic, and the black molds tend to be toxic, and some of them, some people have allergies to penicillin, so it can it, that blue mold can kill people, right? Because they may have allergies to it. No, Miss Tammy. Merry Christmas to you and yours. I'm sorry I'm so far behind getting this. How's it going, Hayseed? Good to see you, brother. Greetings from down there in Louisiana. Hope you enjoyed the podcast. A little different tonight than usual, but hey, that's right. I never inhaled it. Don't you ever and smoke. Don't you ever. I hope no kids listen to that. That's why we added the 18 and over because I had some kids on YouTube trolling us a while back, and I had to add that to it to help discourage some, but had to ban a couple of kids. I didn't realize it. It was a kid until I started the way they were acting. I'm like, wait a minute, man, this is weird. The grown ass men don't act like this. So I pulled up their YouTube page and it's some 14-year-old. I'm like, oh my God, man. What's going on, Mr. Palin? How you doing, brother? Yeah, we got the mercurochrome. We get the iodine, man. We got the mercurochrome that left that big orange stain on us. Yeah, we like both too. We don't usually talk a lot about MJ, but it is a topic I don't mind talking about. I did both, and I think it's something because of the change in the it's something that's in the news, and it's the change in the classification. I think is an important step, and I think it's going to open up a lot of avenues for a lot of research and hopefully some cures for a lot of, like we talked about, epilepsy and seizures and a lot of things like that. Hopefully, it'll open up and help a lot of people, with those afflictions. So we already know it's helping some. So it's they're finding more and more that just basically most of all the epileptic patients can benefit from it, some more so than others. But anybody that has seizures, most, I'm not going to say any and all, but many and most are benefiting to some extent from it. It's awesome. Yeah, mashment. Yeah, I got a PhD in bullshit, man. I can talk about everything. But no, I generally talk about facts. I don't like. There's a lot of people that do. They can bullshit about anything and know nothing, man. And usually you can. It's easy to figure those guys out if you know a little bit. Yeah, and toxic to some people. Like I said, in when I was taking classes in inspection classes and stuff, we delved heavily on molds and not only just molds, how to determine if it is a mold versus mildew and other things. But the biggest issue with molds is allergy related. So some people can tolerate certain molds and it doesn't bother them. Some people cannot tolerate certain molds and it does, just like penicillin. So if you have certain allergies, that most of all these molds can be, deadly for you, or debilitating, so you can get toxicity. You can, and a lot of times they don't know what it is, and they go to the house and they're doing research and they do air quality tests. Oh, well, it's got this certain mold, and then they start checking. Oh, yep, sure enough, they're allergic to that mold. You're gonna have to, take all the drywall out of this house. That black mold behind your water heater you didn't see is pretty much about to kill you. So yeah, and I've seen them burn down houses over certain black mold, so it's very toxic. I'm sure Carpenter knows about that. Yeah, I saw somebody said something about shots, so I scrolled through here. I'm trying to scroll past a lot of this, and I know y'all having these discussions about the penicillin and blue molds and stuff, and I'm glad y'all talking about that. I think I've said about all I know. I don't think I contribute more on that. Moon stock. Here we go. I see what you're saying. I understand what you're saying, Mike. Well, the acetobacters are feeding on the alcohol, and you have to keep, a source of alcohol in there. So adding sugar with the yeast that are in there, if you can keep those yeast alive, slowly adding little bits of sugars to feed the yeast to create the alcohol to feed the vinegar, acetobacters, without it getting to the point where it becomes such a high proof that it's going to kill off the acetobacters. It's a delicate balance, I'm sure. Yeah. Texas Tech beat Duke. Now, I'm not. Do we have a lot of Duke fans in here? I know we got a lot of Kakalaki people. I don't want to piss anybody off, but everybody knows I'm from UK country, and Duke is a four-letter word here. But yeah, we beat St. John's. We spanked them tonight. I think it's 10, 12 points. But we got a new key player back, and we look like a different team. We got some. We've been kind of failing in the middle. Our big guys haven't really been contributing as much. We had a player out. And actually tonight was the first night he played, and he really did the job. It made us look like a different team. That was good to see. So watch out, Duke. We have four losses, but Gonzaga beat the shit out of us, and they made us look bad. So I think it'd have been a little bit different game. I don't think that would have changed that game, but the other three losses, I think those might not have been L's if we had had that game. Yeah, hibiscus is good stuff. I used to have some hibiscus at my old house. Huge, man, huge, huge. Palmetto's a tree, kind of a southern tree. Has a very unique flower, or, um, pink flower, and an interesting leaf pattern. It's a very small leaf, very small leaves, and it, shoot, you just have to Google it. I'd say that, but it's kind of you got like a stem, and then you got like just rows of little leaves. It's just different. It's a different tree. Um, yeah, it's kind of a southern mid U.S. and southern tree, and I guess zone 6 up, but it's very fragrant at the time of the year when it blooms. Very fragrant, and it makes good tea. Awesome, good deal, brother. So did you go to Tractor Supply and get it? I mean that producer's pride makes it pretty good. Their cracked corn is pretty clean. You know, some cracked corn have a lot of cob in it, but that producer's pride's a good, pretty clean cracked corn. And I've had good results with it. You know, and you get it at Tractor Supply and you get fairly fresh. You don't want to get something that's been there from, you know, the city Tractor Supply stores. It probably sits on the shelf for a long time. But the best way, Richard, is once you get used to it this way, eventually you want to just buy the whole kernel corn. You know, and it's the same place. Producer Pride makes the whole kernel corn, and it'll keep longer that way. You know, in the kernel, you got that husk protecting it, and you just get your own little meal and grind it up, and whenever you're ready, you get it, you know, weigh it out and grind it up, and you can have some good fresh cracked corn. And it does definitely makes a difference in your flavor. But generally, Tractor Supply, especially you know like where you live out in the country, there you know, or in the area that people have a lot of gardens and chickens and animals and stuff that it gets pretty good turnover. So you know it'll stay pretty fresh there. But in certain urban areas, you know, with big cities, you know, they probably sits on the shelf a while. Yeah, for anti-foaming, you know, you can just use margarine or vegetable oil. You know, both work. A lot of people use butter. You know, that works. Yeah, I'm the same way, JJ. I did the same thing. I was always worried about what other people thought, and shaped, you know, a lot of what I didn't do based on that, and missed out on some, you know, opportunities and some things that would have been entertaining and fun, and you know, worried about what other people would think and all this. And you know, as you get older, it's like, really, why did I ever give a fuck? You know, it's like, because you know eventually when by the time you get my age you realize no matter what you do haters are going to hate, and it's more so today than ever, and there's nothing that you're going to be able to do that's going to change that. They will always find something to hate, and they're always looking for that negative thing, and they will find it and they will exploit it and they will, you know, use it against you, and that's just the way they are. And the best thing you can do is eliminate those negative people out of your life. You know, that's the uh, best thing to do is not worry about pleasing them, just worry about getting them the hell out of your life so you don't have to worry about them anymore. Yeah, we got them all over, and they grow. You know, they're kind of a once they take hold, you know, they keep growing and spreading and growing and spreading. You know, like not bad as a kudzu, but or or a what's that what's that Bradford pears and all those, they you know grow in the back. But yeah, they grow pretty easily, and they spread quite quite rapidly, and they're a little bit dirty. They have like a coffee bean looking seed pod that come off of them every year. They're very distinguished in the fall. You can tell them it looks like a pea pod, dark, kind of like a what's that other tree that grows here in Kentucky? It has that pod like that, like a coffee tree or something. But um, yeah, it's very distinctive, and that's how they proliferate. The birds will eat that, and you know, shit it, and before you know it, you know, and out in the country they'll grow, and they're almost a nuisance, kind of like a wild cherry. Is my volume down? You know, I had to. reinstall. What is other people out there? Is my volume a little lower than it normally was? Because I had to reinstall my camera and reset up all my stuff. And can y'all hear me okay? Or maybe it's on Richard's end. I don't know. I can certainly turn mine up. It didn't seem like it was loud when I did the test on it. So uh, it's 11:05. You asked that 10:30. Let me scroll ahead and see if he answer me now, so I can. Well, shit. Let me scroll to the very end. All right. You can hear me fine, Earl? Okay, good. I had to scroll to the end. I hate missing all that, but I'm gonna have to go back. But it's getting about 11. I hate missing a lot of this, and I hope if I missed y'all, I'm sorry. But I think I'm in Kentucky, Earl. I'm right in the middle of Kentucky. I'm in Lexington. I grew up in Eastern Kentucky. I grew up in Pike County, but I'm in right dab in the middle of in Kentucky, right in Lexington. It's good to see you on here, Earl. I ain't had a chance to talk to her much. That's awesome. So you're a napper, huh? I collect arrowheads. I've got arrowheads I've collected all my life, man. All right, y'all. It's after 11. DFW. What are we talking about, Earl? I'm not sure what that's an acronym for. Dallas Fort Worth, I'm guessing. I do sound like I'm from Texas, kind of. Yeah. No, we've got some on here. Uh, I think Prohibition is from that area. Uh, what's his name? Shit. I know you're thinking of Mike Hatley. I bet you're thinking of Hatley. That's who you're thinking of. Guarantee it, because he's from Texas, and he's got a moonshine page. He's good people. Good guy. Let me see what his. I can't think of his name page right off the bat. Let me pull it up. He's got a good shine page, and he's getting into commercial. Texas Shine Daddy and Shine Girl. Good people. I ain't seen him on as much. He now they're talking about doing the commercial thing, and he does a lot of TikTok and other social media things, and but I think they're getting ready to go the commercial route, so they're kind of having to push away a little bit from the outlaw side because it can, it can kind of hurt you a little bit when you're in the application process and they're doing a little review and stuff like that. So I think they got some things in the works, right? So, but I think he's from the Dallas Fort Worth area. Yeah, Mike's a good guy. Yep. Yo, shine daddy. Yep. All right, y'all. We were gonna give a caller tonight. It's after 11. I'm a little bit tired. Actually, I had a pretty good little nap. Well, not a good enough nap. I'm getting mad about eating dinner and wanting to sleep, man. I'm like a big old hog now as I get old. I used to, I never slept much, and now it's like, man, I'm sleeping a lot. I guess that's part of getting old, but I like my little nappy naps, and I'll have our dinner there on the couch and watch TV. And next thing we finished eating and she's all snuggled up. And I'm leaning back on that couch all snuggled, and that's my happy place, man. I'm next thing you know, I'm just snoring away. If you need podcast night, we'll sleep there at 11 or 12. And I'll get 5 hours sleep right after dinner. I'll eat 5 or 6 o'clock, and then shit, it'll be 12 o'clock. I'll have 6 hours sleep, and I'm up all night ready. So, yeah, that's one of the joys of being retired, man. You can do that kind of shit. I appreciate the hell out of retirement. I just I don't see where I ever had time to do anything, right? I'm as busy now as I was then. I got my whole day full of fucking shit I got to do, and I'm so busy doing this shit, and it's like, where did I ever have time to work, man? So you never retire. You just focus. You have a focus on different things. Yeah, it was an okay show. It was a good show. And then Merry Christmas to everybody. I want all our viewers out there, listeners, to have a Merry Christmas, and hopefully our New Year's resolution will be trying to stay more on topic. But we can have a sativa Sunday if anybody wants to talk about marijuana. But I just want to keep it on topic, and because not everybody listening is all into that, and but a lot of drinkers do enjoy a little smoky smoke, and some of them. Uh, some may not, and it's, I do want to keep it on topic, and so we'll try, but every once in a while it's okay to, talk about other things. And uh, if you want us to talk about that, we need you to get on here and ask these questions, right? So join the groups for sure, y'all, and ask your questions there as well. We're there to answer and help you. We will make the hobby great for everybody, and enjoyable and safe. And with safe, I want everybody to have a safe and happy holidays. We will be not here next Tuesday, and we'll see you back here. Let me look at my little happy calendar here. 27th. That'll be a couple days after Christmas, and then again we'll have Tuesday the 30th. That'll be our New Year, our pre-New Year party. I guess we won't be around on Wednesday for the New Year's Eve party, but we'll do a New Year's Eve party on Tuesday, and I'm sure shots will be partaken on that night, and especially it'll be a good party. But yeah, this weekend on the 27th we'll be meeting back, and on Saturday the 27th, 8 o'clock, same time, same back channel, and but everybody do have a great, safe holidays. If you have to get out on the roads and travel to family, be careful. A lot of bad road conditions. It's going to be a little warmer in here, so the roads won't be too bad. But if y'all get out and travel, you do know there's going to be a lot of people traveling this time of year, and a lot of people drinking and driving. I've lost some friends on New Year's, especially in the past. So be careful out there and have a great holiday, and spend it with family and friends. It's the best way to share it. And if you don't have family and friends to share with, you got to make some, right? So don't let the seasons get you down. I know it's depressing for some people, but we just got to try to focus on the bright side of things, and if we don't have our family, our old ones to share it with, our parents and grandparents no longer with us, we got to start thinking about our children and making it special for them, because they're looking to us for that same kind of, happiness and family. So we just got to try to make it special for them, like our families did for us, right? So try to focus on the good things in life, and what we have positive, and try to focus on those things, because there's certainly these days there's a lot of negativity and a lot of negative things, and we just can't dwell on those. We gotta, I guess that's why we drink a little bit, right? But everybody have a great holidays, and have safe and happy holidays. And we see you back here on the 27th at 8 Eastern. Till then, Merry Christmas, shine on, and good night.